Hey everybody, it's me! And I have our favorite sponsor to present to you. Sunset Lake CBD.com. You can see with this sign here if you're watching on the show. Look at that. Wait, why can't I censor these things? Oh, there it is. Sunset Lake CBD.com. If you use the code left is best, you get 20% off Sunset Lake's incredible products. I am a daily user of Sunset Lake CBD. You know, sometimes I like to indulge in a little to use Sam's phrasing. And that's when sometimes I put a little CBD with a but you can also get some of the gummies with Sunset Lake with a little bit of in it. You can get the salves, the lotion, which I use here at the office and at home. One that smells good for at home, one that's unscented for the office so it doesn't upset Sam's sensibilities. Both work incredibly. And every night, basically, I use the CBD gummies with melatonin. They are excellent. I have yet to use the Focus ones, but Sam is like chewing them every day. So we are huge fans of Sunset Lake here at the Majority Report. And there's a lot of crappy CBD out there. This is not one of it. One of those companies. They are third-party tested. Regenerative farming practices. They treat their employees well. They give to wonderful organizations, progressive groups, Planned Parenthood, refugee organizations, the kind of company you can feel good about supporting. SunsetLakeCBD.com. And if you use the code left is best, you get 20% off. SunsetLakeCBD.com. Use the code left is best for 20% off. And now on to the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, January 29th, or 19th, 2024. My name is Emma Bigland for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, friends of the show, Alex Pareene, contributing editor at the New Republic, co-host of the Politics of Everything podcast, and then Francesca Fiorentini of the Bitchuation Room will be with us. Meanwhile, Netanyahu reiterates his well-documented intention to block a Palestinian state, establishing Israel, quote, from the river to the sea, a double middle finger to Biden, who seems blissfully unaware as he continues to strike Yemen to punish Yemenis for blocking shipping lanes on behalf of Palestinians, some economic disruptions, to try to stop a genocide. And some Democrats begin to make moves to call for the resignation of Biden's top Middle Eastern policy aide, Brett McGurk. The official death toll in Gaza is now 25,000. With those presumed dead, per Euromed monitor, it's over 32,000. Mexico and Chile request an international criminal court probe into Israel's human rights violations, separate from South Africa's ICJ case. The global South, colonized people linking arms. It's wonderful. 18-year-old Tal Mitnick, the brave Israeli teen who refused to enlist in the IDF, has been released after serving 30 days in prison. The White House cancels $5 billion in student debt for some public service workers. The partial continuing resolution is being sent to Biden's desk. One hurdle cleared to preventing a shutdown, but a fight over Ukraine money and the border looms. A bipartisan deal on the child tax credit's been reached in the Senate, but it gives 5 times as many breaks to businesses. Nikki Haley's gaining ground in New Hampshire ahead of next week's primary, but Trump still has a sizable lead, folks. The DOJ finds that police response to the Uvalde shooting was a, quote, cascading failure. 21 people killed, 19 of them children, 2 teachers as cops stood by. Amid anti-abortion laws, Democrats introduce a bill to protect IVF access. And lastly, a Washington state judge denies a request to remove Trump from the ballot as the Supreme Court is poised to hear arguments from other states about why he should not be on the ballot. All this and more on today's Majority Report. You may be wondering why it's just me today. Sam's not here. Actually, Matt's not here. Matt had a scheduled day off. Not the case for Sam. I got Sam sick. That's the situation here. My commissary privileges have been docked indefinitely. Please pray for me because this workplace is going to be toxic going forward because I gave Sam my stomach bug, virus, flu, whatever the hell it was. It's just myself and Bradley here today. I really do feel badly. I it's not that Sam and I are really ever in any kind of proximity to one another. We're always around 6 feet away because we work at these desks as well, right, Bradley? Like, I don't necessarily know. I gave it to him. I don't know why I'm trying to argue my way out of the idea that I gave him the stomach bug.
You're a bioweapon.
I am a human bioweapon.
That's all there is to it.
I mean, that could be my superhero name, honestly.
Emma Vigeland, the bioweapon.
I honestly, I don't mind that too much. We will, of course, be speaking to Alex Pareene about the ongoing, genocide of it all in Gaza. But I wanted to start with a different story here, just because this should be getting a ton more attention. The Uvalde Robb Elementary School shooting in 2022. People may remember this. I hope you do, because it was one of the most devastating mass shooting events that this country has seen, because 19 little children were murdered by an AR-15 and 2 teachers trying to protect them also murdered by an 18-year-old gunman who was able to get access to a weapon of war when he is still a teenager. I mean, nobody really should have access to these kinds of weapons. AR-15s should be banned, in my opinion, the sale and manufacturing of these kinds of weapons. And that is the major overarching story about gun violence in this country. But there was also a separate outrage that there were hundreds of officers on the scene, police officers. And it took them 77 minutes, over an hour, to confront and kill the shooter. And basically, there was a lot of consternation, obviously. That's way too light of a word, but there was outrage, and the community was heartbroken beyond belief, because these are the cops that are supposedly supposed to be protecting people. This is what our tax dollars go to. Police officers are there to protect and serve, or so we are told. But this was so egregious, and there were so many cops on the scene, hundreds, before they did anything, as children were actively getting shot inside the school while they were on the premises, that the Department of Justice, Biden's DOJ, Merrick Garland, did an investigation into local police conduct, and they found something scathing. They published a report that was just completely damning. They found, essentially, yes, that the facts that I just laid out were true, that those 370-ish officers who were on the scene as kids were getting killed, did not act for 77 minutes. And reviews of the body cam footage show that the police officers were saying, well, he has an AR-15. He's got an AR-15. I don't want to die today. They're using different kind of terms. But I'm scared, basically, is what they were admitting. As children were actively getting shot and hiding in classrooms, there was another part of the report and some of the footage that came out that showed that a police officer called into the school and said, hey, is anybody in there? A child said yes, and the gunman came back and fired shots and killed that child, as other hundreds of officers just kind of sat around because they were, despite being armed with vests, despite this being their job, they were more afraid than the teachers who were protecting their students to go in and actually do their jobs. I mean, the heroes are these teachers who did everything they could to protect those kids. And this DOJ report shows clearly that there was, I mean, cowardice and incompetence on an almost unprecedented scale here. But the police officers in Texas, and many of them are a part of this kind of Operation Lone Star police force that Greg Abbott is putting together down in Texas. Yeah, they try to give them this kind of badass name. They're definitely not badasses. They were afraid of further investigation into their conduct, and there were reports in the aftermath of the shooting that they were harassing the parents of the victims. And this is Miguel Cirillo, who spoke, I guess, was this yesterday?
Or it may have been this morning, actually.
Okay.
Early this morning.
In the wake of this report, he spoke to CNN's Jim Acosta and responded to it and said basically, like, no, this police harassment and intimidation is continuing.
Did seeing this report, reading this report help at all? What was your reaction to it? What were your thoughts?
The first 5 minutes that I read the report, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't. I was in rage. I was anger. I was really, really, really mad. So I forced myself to read more, and I just couldn't understand why, like, why y'all couldn't go in. Like, you know, it's a confusion of everything to me right now. Like, it's a lot of words that I can't say that I want to say to them, but it's just unbelievable that they couldn't just go in that classroom. You know what I mean? It's hard for me. It's very hard and then not only that, I got to see them every day. I live a few houses down from one of the police officers that was there, and I got to see him every day. And it's hard for us. Like I said, it's hard for us every day to see these officers still in the street patrolling and still harassing us every day for no reason. They're just pulling us over for no reason, and they still having them running around in the streets, you know, and not doing nothing, just harassing people.
What do you mean by that, harassing people?
We got a few families, including myself, that they literally they just pulls us over for no reason, telling us to leave Uvalde, telling us all sorts of stuff, because they know that the truth was going to come out and they didn't want us here.
That is unbelievable. But what do you...
I mean, it is unbelievable to a degree, but this is the way that police officers behave, especially in a state like Texas where they get a shiny badge and they get called Operation Lone Star, and they think of themselves as modern day John Waynes, but only in aesthetic, right? Because John Wayne played characters that had a semblance of bravery and didn't piss their pants when it was time to save innocence. That's not the case with these hundreds of officers who, by the way, received specific training on responding to these kinds of scenarios. But I think it was a Texas Tribune report that shows it pales in comparison to the kind of training that children and teachers get to respond to what happens when a mass shooter comes into the school. If the ideology is that these weapons of war are necessary for the freedom of Americans, then at the very least, can we have a police force that isn't afraid to engage with those weapons of war when they're deployed against little babies, children in an elementary school?
I said this around the time, but it bears repeating. A lot of the cover that people, that pro-police organizations, police unions, police officers themselves, when moments of police brutality occur, usually use the pattern or like kind of the conventional wisdom in their view that, police officers, when they leave their houses and put on that uniform, and when they respond to a call, they don't know what they're going to find, and they may not come back because they're actively,
right,
consciously, purposefully putting themselves in harm's way in order to ensure the safety of the public. This was that exact scenario, and in full view of the public with surveillance footage that came out with this long DOJ report showed that actually when cops are in those circumstances, they're scared they're going to get shot so they don't do anything and kids get murdered.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really gave a large amount. It really strained the credulity of that argument as to why police officers need that latitude in order to commit acts of violence against people, because they might not make it back if they don't do so.
Did I remember correctly that one of those cops had like a Punisher logo on his outfit when he was not?
I don't fully remember, but it's, I mean,
vaguely.
It wouldn't
they all
shock
love
me.
that.
And I also just want to remind people of Angela Rose Gomez, who was an actual hero in this situation.
I was about to say, yes.
This woman, during that time, if people remember, she was literally handcuffed by the police because she was so adamantly trying to get to her daughter, who was still in the school. She wriggled out of those handcuffs, made her climb the fence into the school, cracked open a window, and saved her child. She, as a dogged, intrepid mother, caring about her daughter and the safety and well-being of children in that school, saved someone when the police couldn't.
And it should not go without being said that this probably would not have been the response by the cops if those kids hadn't been, many of them, Hispanic, Latino. It being a not, white affluent school. I'm not even sure about the class dynamics there, but many of the victims were of Latina descent, so or Latino themselves, and that kind of racism and the harassment that man, who thankfully his child was not killed, survived the massacre. Because he's choosing to speak to the media, that's what he receives in the kind of small town police dynamic that enables that kind of stuff. It really is just sickening. But I'm really I'm happy that the DOJ report is reminding us all of the unfathomable failure in Uvalde in 2022. Before we get to Alex, we have a word from two of our sponsors. Have you ever wondered why laundry detergent comes in massive plastic jugs? I mean, I have. They are heavy, messy, hard to store, especially if you're like in a one-bedroom apartment like myself. I can barely store my clothes. Where am I going to put these massive jugs for detergent? Worst of all, 91% of plastic does not get recycled, leaving laundry jugs to sit in landfills for centuries to come. We wanted to ditch the jug and have clean laundry, and that's when we found EarthBreeze. EarthBreeze has a great deal for our audience. Right now, you can subscribe to EarthBreeze and save 40%, 40. Go to earthbreeze.com/majority to get started. We'd like to thank EarthBreeze for supporting our show. It kind of looks like a dryer sheet, right? It's not this huge cup of liquid that you have to pour into your detergent. And it just replaces that cup of goo. It's pre-measured liquidless laundry detergent, and it's a sheet. It dissolves in wash cycles, hot or cold. No measuring, no mess, no heavy lifting. That's right, no massive plastic jug. Earthbreeze is the new detergent that I'm using at my apartment. It's just so much easier. It saves me space. In like the 3 closets I have, or whatever, 4 closets, I don't have to worry about the detergent there anymore. I can store other things, and I just feel better about the environment. The packaging is a cardboard envelope, so it saves that much space. We could fit 720 loads of sheets where just one 60-load detergent jug used to fit. Earthbreeze is dermatologist tested. You can feel the difference. It's better for your skin. It's delivered with free carbon offset shipping right when I need it. You can cancel your subscription anytime, pause it. No hidden fees, no penalties. It's not going to make it a complete hurdle for you to do so. And you can feel good about not contributing to plastic-filled heaps in the ocean. You still get a powerful clean. Earthbreeze is tough on stains, fights odors, and my clothes come out clean every time. I don't stink, right, Bradley? Okay, thank you. Thank you for confirming that. Join over 2 million Americans making a difference with Earthbreeze. They offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee, so if you don't like it, you will get a free refund. No questions asked and no return necessary. Trust me, there is no reason not to switch. Right now, you can subscribe to Earthbreeze and save 40% off. 40% off. Go to earthbreeze.com/majority to get started. That's earthbreeze.com/majority for 40% off. Thank you, Earthbreeze. earthbreeze.com/majority for 40% off. And lastly, this product is very helpful. If you have a few drinks, I'm like, everyone says when you turn 30, it's when things start to fall apart. Start to realize your skin's sagging, you're aging. I'm turning 30 in a few months, and I do not bounce back drinking the way I used to. I cannot drink in quantities if I'm going out on the town in the way I used to. It's like a few glasses of wine, and I feel like crap the next day, and it's shocking. It's shocking. Even if I don't feel drunk or whatever, I'm drinking responsibly. It's just starting to catch up with you as you get older. But I found a bit of a solution, and that's ZBiotics. I don't have to choose between having a great night or a great next day. Now that I found ZBiotics, it's a pre-alcohol probiotic drink in the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, invented by PhD scientists to make you feel better, or help you feel better, I should say, the morning after drinking. And it works like this. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that is why you feel badly the next day. And ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember, you take ZBiotics before your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have ZBiotics before drinking, it really makes a huge difference the next day. Even after drinks the night before, I know I'll be able to kind of just go to the gym. I'll be able to do this show, right? And research and be able to focus, do what I need to do the next day. This year I want to form better, drinking habits and work on that and just be as healthy as possible. This is a way for me to still have a glass of wine or two on a Friday and feel okay the next day. I'm allowed to now just kind of enjoy my nights out in moderation while being able to just be a human being and be a productive member of society afterwards. So go to zbiotics.com/majority to get 15% off your first order when you use majority at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using our code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/majority to get 15% off your first order when you use the code majority at checkout. zbiotics.com/majority. Use the code majority at checkout. All right, folks, quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Alex Pareene. are back, joined by our wonderful friend, Alex Pareene, contributing editor at the New Republic, co-host of the Politics of Everything podcast. Always a pleasure. Alex, thanks so much for coming on the show.
It is always a pleasure. It's good to see you, Emma.
Good to see you. And, you know, I was just saying to you in the break, it's hard to think about anything else except Gaza. And it has felt like the pressure on Biden is increasing on daily, right? I mean, we're seeing articles come out like in HuffPost. I have it printed out here actually because I want to give this reporter credit over there. He's been doing incredible work, and I did not write down the name of the author. If you don't mind looking that up, Bradley. But basically reporting on how there's this White House aide, Brett McGurk, who is leading Middle East policy, and he's been a guy that's been involved in the Bush administration, the Obama administration, the Trump administration, just kind of a career deep state guy, for lack of a better phrase. And he has these absolutely insane plans. And the reporter, Akbar Shahid Ahmed, doing wonderful work over there at HuffPost, he's floating these insane plans that are beyond delusional. They're a continuation of the Trump administration's push to normalize relationships between Saudi Arabia and Israel, which is understood to be one of the reasons that Hamas attacked. It was another choking off of an Arab ally, a major one in the region, even though, of course, Saudi Arabia has been on the United States' side for a while. But basically, it was the idea of not involving the Palestinians in the process whatsoever. Even during the time, people were criticizing Trump for that policy. And now the Biden administration is basically trying to implement the exact same thing, the Abraham Accords, or considering doing so. And then in this 90-day plan, when Israel and Saudi Arabia normalize, then Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia will take over Gaza and be their representative. Because I don't know if you know this, Alex, but they're both Arabs.
Yeah, so therefore, they're essentially the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, exactly.
Easy peasy.
Like that's the same thing as self-determination. Just
Totally.
have some other group of people who happen to also be Arab be in charge.
And also who happen to be completely aligned with United States interests. And in the region, it's widely understood that Saudi Arabia and the United States have a close relationship. And that it's a joke that Saudi Arabia would adequately represent Palestinian interests.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think, I mean, the I don't know, the McGurk, and I remember I've been reading about him for a little while and was sort of, I guess, like when I realized he was still in the Biden administration and still had this position, it was like actually kind of shocking. Like at this point now I'm used to it, but it was like, it really is a lot of what I think you could have said the worst case scenarios predicting what a Biden administration would be like all coming to pass in terms of what they would be like in foreign policy, right? Essentially the no lessons learned wing of the Democratic Party, like just coming back and being like, we are just going to run this the way we have always run things. And if anything, more stubbornly and recklessly, I think, even than they would have in the past. And I think what has been a little bit surprising is seeing now finally some evidence that congressional Democrats are actually, they're calling on McGurk. Some of them are calling on McGurk to be fired, basically. But like, there's some evidence of some cracks in the party.
Yes.
But for the administration itself, it's been really appalling in this way that you wanted to hope it wouldn't have gotten this bad.
I'm curious about your take on that move, potentially Democrats trying to get McGurk to resign, because it feels a little bit like a way to signal to the White House that many Democrats do not want to continue to go down this path, but also absolve Biden in the public's eyes from his responsibility. Because let's be real, like the buck stops with Biden. This NatSec dude, or this, the State Department guy, McGurk is not determining foreign policy. Like, but it is good reporting, great reporting on what he's doing. But the efforts from the Democrats to do this, it feels like they're trying to have it both ways to this degree. And I just think that that's interesting because maybe there's a growing understanding that this actually might have electoral consequences, which Biden seems to be completely dismissive of at this point.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and I think you nailed the sort of political aspect of this, which is an attempt at a face-saving move. Because, as you say, Joe Biden is obviously this is not his first rodeo. He is not a neophyte on foreign policy. He is like Mr. Senate, Mr. Foreign Policy for years and years and years.
Mr. Israel,
like Mr. Middle East, like
how in Mother Jones, or actually it was Beinart, but they revived it recently to reiterate. I mean, he undercut Obama and Hillary Clinton, who were trying to get tougher with Netanyahu on settlements, and he went around them and screwed them over. Hillary Clinton and Obama are the good guys in this story.
I know. And so that's why I do think when you have Democrats saying you got to fire McGurk, it's a little bit what's the saying about the czar being betrayed by his ministers or whatever, right? Like they're being like, oh, come on, Joe. Like it's an attempt to do some face saving because I think they know this is a much bigger problem politically than Joe Biden does think. But yeah, I mean, obviously, he's the guy determining his foreign policy, like he is. So I don't know. I think like there is I'm not sure if and when it will sink in to the White House that they will actually face, I think, pretty bad political consequences for not actually working to de-escalate instead of this sort of really transparent escalation that's done in this style of like, oh, we're doing our best not to make things worse, but like we just keep being forced to make things worse over and over again. Like no one is really falling for that. And again, like we're seeing the worst instincts of the worst Democratic foreign policy people all being indulged right now.
This is a short clip of Joe Biden from yesterday. He was speaking to the press outside of the White House, and he was asked about the airstrikes that he's carrying out in Yemen, which he's continuing to do. As a reminder, Yemen is one of the poorest countries in the world. It has been besieged by a proxy war waged by Saudi Arabia with U.S. money and the Iran-backed Houthis for nearly a decade at this point, with unimaginable suffering happening at our hand in many ways. Yep. And there was a pullback of that. That was progress. But because the Yemenis and some Houthis as well, who now basically control the north of Yemen, as Yemen's in this kind of purgatory of leadership, right? Like there's no real formal kind of structure for the government right now because it's just factions. The established government that Saudi Arabia was propping up, and the United States, and the Houthi militants that have taken over much of the north. But they are expressing solidarity with the Palestinian people and saying, we are going to disrupt trade through in our backyard in the Red Sea, one of the most important shipping lanes in the world for global commerce, until a ceasefire is called for. This seems like a very rational choice by a state to make. I mean, their government's not that formal, but this is if this was happening to a neighbor of the United States, we would be doing the exact same thing and worse.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But Biden, instead of taking them at their word, saying, if you call for a ceasefire, this will stop, he's striking Yemen, killing people. And this was his response when he was asked if those airstrikes are even working.
Are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
Right.
Are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
Yeah,
It's like
Also, there's like some traffic going on behind you, which is hilarious.
know,
But
I'm-
just
yeah.
pointing that out for the podcast audience.
Yeah.
New York City.
it's that
Yeah.
quote, it's that sort of like memeable quote where it's like the airstrikes will continue until morale improves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that's what is that like? The last half century of American foreign policy in one nutshell, right there. I mean,
yes.
I think like Spencer Ackerman made some really good point about this entire affair, where it was like we what we're really good at is sort of justifying or finding ways to justify our military actions, and what we're really bad at is explaining how they will have the desired effect. And this is a prime example of that. Like, we can say, Joe Biden can go out there and say, here's why we feel we are justified in these airstrikes. And he cannot plausibly come out there and say, and here's why we think this will achieve a positive result. Like, it's a complete fantasy to imagine like this is the action that will lead to the result that will actually like work for anyone. And yet we are forced down this path as if we have no other choice.
And the other choice is clear, as I just said.
Yeah, no, I know.
You don't need to give a shit about the Palestinian people, Biden. If all you care about is commercial shipping not being disrupted, call for a ceasefire and be done with it. But the problem is that he is ideologically committed to the righteousness of Israel. We had Peter Beinart on this program, who this quote just rings in my head every time we talk about Biden's kind of position on Israel, which is that Americans who are more willing to challenge the founding myths of our country as a promised land on a hostile frontier are also more willing to challenge the myths of Israel as a promised land on a hostile frontier. And Biden's romanticism about America is like delusional. Certainly,
yeah, no, but it's definitely part and parcel with
but he copy and pasted onto Israel. Is my guess.
Yeah, and you see, they are the other country that gets the benefit of this insane American attitude of the kind of what you were just describing, where like other countries aren't allowed to sort of have autonomy or aren't allowed. It's considered stepping over some line for another country to act in the way that we routinely act, whether it be threatening to disrupt trade as part of a strategy to exert influence in the world, which is like something we do routinely as a matter of course. But if another country does it, it's an act of war. And in the minds of these American foreign policy establishment types like Joe Biden, above all, the only other country that gets the benefit of the doubt is Israel. The only other country that gets to act with impunity in a way that all other countries aren't allowed to act. And there's a lot of complicated ideological reasons for that. And I think Beinart and you nailed one of them. But it is really remarkable when you just look at among this crowd, like these are the two countries that are allowed to act in ways we don't allow any other country to act.
It also intersects with racism in the sense that the inability to really conceive of other state actors in the Middle East operating with the same kind of incentives for their own sovereignty, their own economic prosperity, their allyship with other Arabs within the region in opposition to Israel. And then it just gets kind of poo-pooed as they're anti-Semites.
And you definitely...
Yeah.
You see this all the time when you look at the last, several years of U.S. foreign policy positions on Iran, especially, and they're treated as if their motivation is that they're cackling villains in a sort of opera. Like, they're not treated as like a normal country that is doing the sort of things normal countries do to exert influence within their sphere, good and obviously bad, but like acting as a normal country would, like with sovereignty and in its own political interests in a way that is rational and understandable. But they're never treated that way. They're always treated as acting out of malice or evil or anti-Semitism or hatred. And when you approach it from that lens, it does not lead to you making rational decisions about foreign policy.
Well, and let's be clear too. I mean, Iran has been the calm hand over the past 5 or 6 years as
Yeah.
it well, before that too, because they engaged, and credit to Obama, with the Iran nuclear deal, which was
Yep.
obviously one of Netanyahu was vocally opposed to. He did that whole weird PowerPoint presentation, if you recall, showing how they actually had nukes, which got debunked immediately because, I mean, Netanyahu grew up in a Philly suburb. Like he went to an elite university here in the United States. You look at some of these far right cabinet officials, so many of them are, dual citizens of the US and come from a neoconservative educational tradition here in the US, indistinguishable from Dick Cheney, except for the fact that they have all of they're completely unshackled from kind of like any, I don't know, domestic, any more kind of checks and balances on what they're doing to a population, because the Palestinian people, well, I guess that's honestly, it's not really different at all. So I was trying to make some sort of distinction.
I know. I do sort of know what you mean, though. Where it's like they because their domestic political audience, is different than the American political audience. There is, I think, things that they feel like they can get away with, right? But you're right that they are, like, in their ideology and in their politics, they are very American, and or at least, like, it's not necessarily, like, maybe not necessarily that they're very American, but that there's a sort of shared heritage. I think is maybe a more accurate way to put it. There's a shared heritage between the two. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and just to bring it back to Iran, essentially, if Iran had assassinated Rex Tillerson at the time.
My God, I know. Yeah, I know. I
which is what we did, and they chose not to escalate. I mean, and it's just amazing to me how Iran is portrayed as the aggressor when it comes to our Middle Eastern policy.
Yeah, and when you look at the like, it's the history dating back way before that. I mean, cyber attacks, economic warfare, targeted assassinations. Like, we are constantly stirring the pot and constantly, like, not engaging in Cold War, but engaging in hot war actions against Iran, but acting aggressively in the region in general. And because of our national myth of innocence and our national myth of righteousness, like, we never consider it in that way. We never think, oh boy, we're being really super aggressive here. We just think we're acting normally, and any response is aggression and escalation.
Don't you guys remember in 1953 when Iran overthrew Eisenhower?
Yeah, that's right. Who can forget? Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Never mind. I think I might have gotten that mixed up.
And you know what's amazing? Former Prime Minister, it was Benny Gantz. Can you just clarify that it was Benny Gantz in the Wall Street Journal op-ed like a few weeks ago saying it's time to do regime change in Iran. The United States and Israel needs to engage. That provocation is so, given the history that Bradley just kind of sarcastically alluded to. Yeah. We are so arrogant on the world stage in that way, because if this kind of language was being published by it was Naftali Bennett, sorry, not Benny Gantz, I apologize, another former Israeli prime minister saying this, like, it would be Armageddon.
Right. I mean, we take it as a sort of justification for aggression when like people marching in the street in other countries say bad things about America. Like, we take that as a huge insult, and we and our allies, like, routinely and blithely say, we're going to topple your government, or, like, we intend to topple your government.
Right.
And it's just nuts that we think that that's like a completely legitimate way to go about doing business with other sovereign states.
Yes, right. Yeah, apologies. It was not Gantz for sure, and he was just the alternate PM. Not it was Naftali Bennett. But let's play this clip here. Of these two of Netanyahu and Ben Gvir. So the United States continues to say that the stated position of the country is that we are trying to incentivize a two-state solution. First of all, it's completely out the window, in my opinion, the possibility of that. Israel's been in violation of international law since 1967, where they've taken so much Palestinian territory. What would a Palestinian state even look like without clawing back so much Israel territory? It needs to be one democratic state from the river to the sea with equal rights for all. And it can call it Israel-Palestine. They can have
they can have a referendum to decide what to call it.
Great, wonderful, and then they can kind of operate separately in some ways, except on major matters of trade and diplomacy. That can all be ironed out, but we are a ways away from that, because when Biden is saying two-state solution, every major Democrat is saying two-state solutions. Even progressive Democrats continue to buy into this fiction. They're saying that's what we need to move towards. And at the same time, the guy that we're giving billions and billions of dollars to just said this yesterday.
For 30 years, I am very consistent, and I'm saying something very simple. This conflict is not on the lack of a state of Palestinian, but the existence of a state, the Jewish state. Every area that we evacuate, we receive terrible terror against that. It happened in South Lebanon, in Gaza, and also Judea and Samaria, which we did it. And therefore, I clarify that in any other arrangement, in the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea. This is what happens when you have sovereignty. This truth I say to our American friends. And I also stopped the attempt to impose on us a reality that will jeopardize us. A prime minister in Israel has to be able to say no, even to the best of friends. To say no when you need to, and to say yes when you can.
Maybe Biden should try saying
no. It's a bitterly ironic for an Israeli prime minister to say, well, sometimes you got to say no to your friends.
Sometimes when someone's giving you a huge pile of cash and says, well, will you spend this in this way, please? You can say, go fuck yourself. I'm spending it to do a genocide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, it is. I feel like we to some extent have been doing this kind of dance for a few years now. But you see, especially when right-wing Israeli politicians, especially Netanyahu, are honest about what their intentions are. You think it should be a wake-up call to American friends of Israel about what the reality of the situation is, and it just doesn't. I mean, whatever. It just doesn't for lots of reasons. It does not seem to break through. But it is absolutely the case that if American politicians and the Democratic Party actually believed in a two-state solution, this is not how they would be acting. I mean, they just wouldn't. And so therefore, I think it's very easy, very justified to say that everyone who claims to believe in a two-state solution is just lying to save face, because if any of them believed in it, they would not be acting the way they are right now. We would have a very different attitude towards this Israeli government if that's what we actually believed in.
The value of the two-state solution conversation was that liberals, Zionists could stomach it, basically. Yep. It was not very realistic, 20 years ago when we were talking about it. Yeah. It's impossible now. Yeah. Impossible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. There was the closest that we got in recent times was like the 90s, and it has not been remotely getting any closer since then.
And even in that scenario, it is still a situation in which it's two ethno states or whatever. I mean, and one ethno state that is a colonial one, and the other where
one of them dominating the other still.
Exactly, and the second state for Palestinians, if it's not just in any way, but just like in terms of what it would look like, would they have the same ability to have the access to the sea, right? For trade, for economic opportunity. I mean, what would that state look like except for Israel with all of its economic might and power taking taking all of the shipping kind of the ports, the you know what I'm saying, the border to the sea, choking off the ability for the Palestinian people to like have prosperity, essentially. I mean, it's a fiction. And yet the Biden administration continues to repeat it to justify its support of Israel. Even as Netanyahu says publicly, we're not doing it. And by the way, he's been saying this publicly. It's been inherent to his ideology for his entire public life.
Yes. That's exactly right. Yep. And they're not, again, they don't hide this stuff. They say it openly.
Yeah.
And it's just rarely acknowledged by their allies here.
Depressing. So quickly before we let you go, there's a presidential race going on.
Oh God, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
It kind of sucks because Biden is the Democratic candidate that will be the nominee, barring, some act of God or health. I mean,
sure.
I don't even. I'm not wishing
alien
that.
Abduction.
Right.
Anything,
like, I mean, he's an old guy. Something could happen. Obviously, not wishing on that because honestly, there's no candidate waiting in the wings. That
there's not exactly like we're not. It's not like if only he would get out of the way. We could really be cooking.
Right. I mean, at this point, we've gone down this road, and incumbency is basically the only thing we can hang our hat on as an advantage here, and abortion, basically. But Trump clobbered everybody in Iowa.
Yeah.
There was some article that he didn't even freaking go there. I mean,
no, I don't know if he did or not. No, and he did. Like people. I don't know how many people remember. He didn't win in 2016.
Yeah,
like Iowa didn't pick him in 2016. So he gained ground in Iowa.
Like significantly,
like massively.
And in New Hampshire, I'm seeing all these articles and they headline it Nikki Haley surging, challenging Trump. And you look at the print a paragraph down and he's still got a 10-point lead or something like that. Or a 12-point lead. It is, she's going all in on New Hampshire. DeSantis will probably drop out either after New Hampshire or South Carolina.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay till South Carolina, but he's cooked.
But he's hoping for South Carolina to be the where he has a good showing. But that seems unlikely given the fact that is Nikki Haley's home state. She was the governor of that state, and Trump is also going to win that state.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think you have the big money people being like Steve Schwartzman or whatever, starting to be like, 2 years ago they were like, I can't wait to support DeSantis or Haley, and now they're just like, well, guess we'll see about Trump again. He might have to go with him again, and once that happens, it's not like they don't actually have that much influence over the voters, but like once they give up the fight to pick someone else, it's over.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I'm curious what you make of what Nikki Haley's angle here is. Do you think that she legitimately feels that she has a shot if something kind of happens to Trump legally? Or is this really like, I've been overusing this kind of analogy, but I think it's pretty apt. Is it this NFL team is 1-7? We are going to bench our older quarterback, somebody who's not performing well, and we'll go with the 4th or 5th round rookie for the rest of the year because we've got nothing left to lose, and we just want to see how.
Let's see what they got. Yeah,
let's see what he's got. He's got before we go into the draft. That's what it feels like for Nikki Haley when we're talking about 2028.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that there's the two things going on with. I think there is this belief that I think this belief is now fading, but it was easier to believe this a while ago that the legal stuff or other things would cause Trump to give up or fail or be in jail, and someone needed to be there in case that happened. That was the justification for these people who were polling single digits before. That's kind of fading now, but now it is definitely this I don't know, kind of old-fashioned belief that the person who came in second place last time usually like does really well the next time. So you gotta just be in it for that reason. But I think that's really all they're fighting for at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I I wonder if Vivek is what his angle is, right? I think
he's the Buttigieg, right? He's just gonna. I mean, I think Trump kind of turned on him at the end, but he was just hoping to like get his name out there. So that when Trump wins, he can, get
is he Buttigieg or is he Andrew Yang? That is the question.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, we will find out. But either way, I mean, I think he's angling for either cabinet position and then Daily Wire.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Truly, lastly here, the Mike Johnson experience seems to be, I mean, we're in a bit of a holding pattern. Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying she'll do the same thing, or she might bring up a vote to oust him if he does Ukraine funding. I mean, who knows how much of that is just her bloviating as per usual. But there are some quotes that are getting released to the punch bowls of the world about how we're back to square one. Yeah. It's the same thing with Kevin McCarthy. And I want to say, you know why that's the same is because the circumstances have not changed. Yeah. There's a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president.
Yeah, I know. There's definitely like this really sort of tragic inability to just like understand really basic facts about politics that continues to animate the right wing of the Republican House, which is amusing to watch it, just like all of these House speakers run up against it. But yeah, I mean, we're already seeing the stories too. I feel like this was just in Politico. Now we're already seeing the stories that are like, is he going to need some Democratic support? Like, are Democrats going to have to offer to like save his speakership in order to like win? And if we're already to that point, history is just repeating itself very, very quickly.
That will be the ultimate humor if she brings up some sort of vote to get rid of Mike Johnson in the election year. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
You know what though? I don't think she will. No, I don't think she will, because I think, and I'm not comparing them as human beings whatsoever, okay? But like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she got a little bit closer to power with her fundraising ability. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene played ball with Kevin McCarthy early on, right? And, she has, just because of the purse, because she is a top grassroots fundraiser for Republicans, as crazy as that sounds,
learning an inside game. That's
she's gonna get right. She will probably, and she's crazy, but I can't imagine that she'll have, given the fact that she I'm sure she wants to be a little bit back in the graces of the Republican establishment there, like back on committees. I think she'll play ball and not do that, not show so much chaos in an election year.
It's the line that she's towing is right to like keep on brand, but also do exactly what you're saying, right? Like let's actually try to build some power here, but also like you gotta keep people on their toes by threatening to oust the speaker every now and then.
Of course. Well, Alex Pareene, contributing editor at the New Republic, co-host of The Politics of Everything. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate you being on.
Of course, it was my pleasure. I'll see you again soon.
See you soon. All right, folks, quick break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Francesca Fiorentini, and I will be seeing her in person like in 9 days. And you get 8 days. You guys better be there if you're in San Francisco. We'll talk more about that with her in just a moment. We are back, and we are joined by my friend, the wonderful Francesca Fiorentini. Is that a DSA shirt?
No. I mean, it should be.
It's pretty cool.
It's tight. Yeah, exactly.
I really
got the
like
roses. It's red. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Good to be here. Happy Friday, I guess is what we say. You say that in the office?
You feeling happy?
No.
No,
not
me neither.
Super happy lately.
I am not feeling happy ever anymore because of the whole genocide thing, right?
Yeah. That life genocide balance really getting you down. It's interesting to go on stage too and talk about it in audiences that you would think would otherwise be more amenable. They get little buttholes get real tight when you talk about what's going on in Israel.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I think I want to. We can have a bit of a vent sesh on liberal Zionists, but before we get into that, if you were thinking about seeing myself on Sunday, but also Francesca Fiorentini Saturday and Sunday in San Francisco next weekend, I'm not going to say how many tickets are left, but Francesca just told me very, very few. So if you're listening to this live, you might be the only people that'll have the ability to get these tickets because it's about to sell out probably in the next half hour or something like that.
I mean, that being said, there will be tickets the night of, so you can always come through and see. I think they release a handful the night of. But yeah, it's going to be so fun. And also, if you don't get tickets to Sunday, Saturday, me and Nato Green and two other awesome comics, Daya Lakshmi Narayanan and Corinda Dobbins, we're all sort of in the political comedy milieu. We're doing stand-up. So like actual written jokes, more guaranteed laughs, but not Emma Vigeland on stage. So
I'll be on stage on Sunday, but I mean the stand-up you've got to see. If you're in the area, why not both?
Yes, come see all of my Israel material that crushes.
Oh yeah. So what's that like? I mean, to talk a little bit more about that. The audiences don't seem to get down with it.
Not necessarily. I've had mixed bag. Granted, I'm in Los Angeles, and there's. Like, it is generally a more liberal city, but it's a mixed bag. It depends. Like, some people don't want to be reminded of anything that's going on. My take is very much like, here's what's going on in Israel, and don't worry, I can say that because I'm not famous, and so you can trust me. All right, call it bravery, call it anonymity, but I cannot be canceled, and that always gets a good laugh because people are like, "You are not famous. I have no idea who you are."
Right. Self-deprecation comes first, and then they don't have to like immediately think, "Oh, scary topic."
No, yeah, and it feels like a little ridiculous to not mention it, but of course, as a comic, you gotta find your way around it. It's gotta hit every time. It's gotta be funny. You don't want to just be like, now you're looking at a sad TikTok or whatever it is. So it's a job. That's the job of the comic, and it's fun. So yeah, come see me. And Nato Green, who's an anti-Zionist Jew, who is very outspoken and used to be my mentor. Now I'm his mentor, but he's the best, and so it'll be a really fun time. And then Sunday, Emma, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm thinking how to weave in your Tim Pool appearance throughout.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be a drinking game. I don't know yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I rented a car out there, realizing I'm gonna figure out a way to get a ride on Sunday night.
A car? First of all, don't rent a car. Those get broken into every single day in San Francisco.
Jesus.
Hashtag no neoliberal. I'm not like no pro cop here, but like if you leave like lint in view, it will get taken because it's like there might be gold in there,
Okay. I'll figure this out, but I had to figure out a way to get to my cousin who lives like 45 minutes away. So that is the rental car. But anyway, that's just some more logistics talk for the audience. Let's talk Israel, shall we?
I just had a question, Francesca, before we got
please, Bradley, what's up?
So your stand-up, is it mostly like Seinfeld, where like the music comes in and you're just like, and what is the deal?
Yeah,
with collective punishment?
yeah. What is the deal with genocide?
West Bank. I mean, where is it?
That's observational.
Where are they supposed to go? Yeah, and it's just it slaps.
Yeah,
it slaps.
Oh yeah, that guy.
I think he actually was in Israel.
He was
with like Eve Barlow. That's
what he's just doing this. Like
find that photo. Let's find this photo. Yeah, that's the exact pose. And I saw him freaking courtside at the Knicks game the other night, and I just wanted to be like, these Zionist celebrities will face. Not that he said, look. He's pro-Israel. I hate it, but he hasn't said, Arabs are rapists like Amy Schumer or something like that with that meme.
Yeah, not to us.
Not to us.
In company, in other Zionist company, I'm sure. Yeah, it is incredibly disheartening. It also sort of seems to correlate because I know a lot of comics. I know a lot of Jewish entertainers, folks, artists who are speaking out. But it's almost like the more money and power you have, the more you think that Hamas can build tunnels going up to the Hollywood Hills. Like the more you think that my mansion has 1 million entrances. Like that's truly the correlation between the folks I know who've in the last 3 months lost their goddamn minds over what's going on. And not the genocide part, the October 7th part.
Oh yes.
Even though a lot of it, the myths they keep regurgitating have been disproven by their own journalists or Israel's own journalists. But it's just wild how that works. It's like, you are literally the safest person I know. You have nothing to worry about. No one's coming for you. And that correlates to how much they throw down with Israel and how scared and how much scaremongering they do.
There he is. Traveling there in the midst of what's supposedly this very scary time in Israeli society. I mean, October 7th, the fact that civilians were killed there is horrific. I mean, horrific.
But you know what that reminds me of?
But it's not unsafe in Israel right now. This is not a war. Seinfeld's going over there to pose and be like, hell yeah, soldiers, do that genocide. I'm enjoying it.
But he's got an automatic weapon. I don't know what. Don't come at me, gun nuts. But it's, you talked about Uvalde. You opened the show with Uvalde. This is the same thing as posing with cops in your, knee-jerk support of them when you think they're under fire with an AR-15.
Yep.
After children have been murdered. It's the same thing as Elon Musk going to the border and posing with, Border Patrol or whatnot. And you would never see Seinfeld doing that.
Exactly. Elon did that in Israel.
He did. Yeah. Right. And so, but that never crosses liberal Zionist mind. Suddenly I'm throwing down with the right. Well,
Yeah, I think so. Here, I'm curious about your thoughts on this about liberal Zionism. Liberals, specifically older liberals too, but younger ones, I really do think they see justice and they see progress as acceptance versus hatred. Right? On one side, there's bigotry and hatred of groups for who they are and their religion and their skin color, right? And on the other side, there is liberalism. There's cosmopolitan cities where people can be themselves. And in Israel, gay people are allowed. I mean, don't let everybody know that gay marriage is not legal there yet. But there's gay people and there's nightclubs and this is an accepting society versus the anti-Semitism, the hate on the other side. And then some liberals will also say, well, God, both sides are bigoted and I just don't want to engage in this, right?
Yeah.
But leftists engage with this topic with a fundamental understanding of colonialism and power. And there's just an older political tradition where their view of what is good is so structured around the anti-racist struggle here in the United States, as opposed to, and also anti-Semitism and anti-bigotry efforts domestically, and they copy and paste this onto an international moment of violence from colonizer to the oppressed, and the power the power dynamics, it doesn't fit. This is square peg, round hole stuff. Younger
Absolutely.
leftists.
But also remember that it's only in lip service that liberals actually care about anti-racist struggles here. As soon as, a homeless is digging through their trash, they're calling the cops, I mean, a lot of the police shootings we've seen in this country have been because wealthier white people are calling cops on some people they shouldn't, just for living their damn lives. That's how a lot of, police shootings escalate. So, I feel like this is a moment for liberalism and liberals in general to say, and to see that, they support every single liberation struggle so long as it happened a long time ago, just way back in the past. And now we can comfortably talk about it. But when the ongoing genocide, when it happens in your face, you're nowhere to be found because, number one, it's not safe. Like, it's not okay to just talk about it. And you don't want to feel weird and awkward among polite company. You don't want to lose job opportunities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't want to be called anti-Semitic, even though you know that this is not about anti-Semitism and Jews are leading the struggle for a ceasefire. But yeah, it is. I'm waiting, Emma. I'm waiting for just a few little, you know who you are, texts from people who lost their mind at me, just going like, hey, remember how I lost my mind at you? You were right. I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
It's never going to come. I'm waiting for it too. Like, it literally eats at me every single day. I've lost friends. I've damaged friendships because of just my advocacy for Palestinian rights. And it's not to make it, of course, about ourselves, but I don't know about you. It's been it's been like deeply sad to me because it's changed my perception of so many people that I know, where I always thought we were aligned mostly. And then it just comes to this and you bump up against a proud ignorance about history, real
an apologism, just real apologism for these criminal acts and sort of, again, regurgitating the words of Biden, of Netanyahu. I've had Golda Meir quoted at me. The quote, someday we'll forgive the Arabs for killing us, but we'll never forgive them for making us kill their children.
That was quoted to me too.
I mean, what? And look,
by the way, Golda Meir, Biden cites his meeting with her as the basically like emotional underpinning of his support for Israel in 1976 or something like that.
Yeah. Golda Meir gave him just like a mother hen hug that his actual mom never gave him, and just sort of like, I think she was a slight woman, but for some reason I'm like, just like in her bosom,
right?
Like petted his head, and he will never forget it ever. And we're all. No, Palestinians are the ones suffering because of it. But yeah, look, I do want to say that I think I'm not a Jew, obviously. I'm married to a Jew. He's got a new podcast called Bad Hasbara. It's great if you want to talk about anti-Zionism from a Jewish perspective. But I think it is important for us to understand that, like, in the United States, there is very deep indoctrination in some American Jewish communities that, for those of us who are not steeped in those communities, seems like we don't have an insight into. So I understand, and forgive me, but there's a cult-like mentality. There's an indoctrination. There's propaganda that has to be unpacked. It is being unpacked by progressive Jewish groups right now, and has been. But I have some empathy for people who have been in a cult. But how many more thousands, tens of thousands of Palestinians have to be murdered before you're like, yep, I'm leaving it. I'm leaving this cult right now.
And you don't need to be a Jewish person to be in that cult. You can be Biden. You can say that you are a proud Zionist, and you can buy into Israel's colonial project as reparations for the Holocaust. And it doesn't really necessarily matter what the cost is, because frankly, the Western white arrogance of it all is just jarring. The idea that it's not Germany, it's not the U.S., and other European countries for turning Jews away as the Holocaust was beginning to ramp up, who need to face reparations for their crimes, ranging from Germany's heinous, unimaginable crimes of the Holocaust to what I just mentioned, Western nations not doing enough to protect Jewish people. No. We are above reproach. I mean, we don't face consequences for our actions. Haiti slavery, there's a revolt in Haiti and slavery is overturned. The slave owners need to be paid reparations by Haiti because they lost so much capital when slavery was abolished there. That is the same kind of mentality that undergirded the establishment of Israel as a Jewish state in the Middle East, which is that even though these are the crimes of Western white imperialist nations, it's not us that needs to bear the brunt, really. It's other people. Let them deal with it. And then for these just crazy freaks to be calling so many Arab people. I mean, Ron DeSantis at the beginning, right after October 7th, was saying all Palestinians are anti-Semitic.
Outlawing the Palestinian flag in Florida, I believe today or yesterday.
But that's widely shared. Like the anti-Semitism that resulted in the horrific, unimaginable crimes of the Holocaust is a Western white construction. And yet now, less than 100 years after the Holocaust, it's apparently the burden of Arab people in the Middle East that they need to bear, that they need to lose their children over. Not any kind of real understanding of what gave rise to this ideology in Germany and why we still have not done it. We have not rooted out. There are Nazis in this country right now.
Yes. Oh my God, they're Nazis and they are allied with Israel. Netanyahu was the very first president to call Donald Trump and congratulate him on winning the presidency. The day after Jewish headstones in Jewish graveyards were toppled in celebration by American Nazis of Trump's victory. Like, come on. We understand that Israel makes American Jews and Jews around the world in the diaspora less safe because of its actions. And they, of course, capitalize on, as Norman Finkelstein calls it, the Holocaust industrial complex. But I do think that one of the other lines that has been chillingly sort of spat at me by Zionists is kind of what you're talking about. And this is why when you look at Israel-Palestine a little too hard, you start to get real anarchist about it because you're like, hey, maybe nation states suck. Maybe militarized borders are awful, right? Maybe nation states are always created from the subjugation of usually brown people, as this country was. But a lot of liberal Zionists are telling me, look, America had its genocide. Why can't Israel have their genocide? Oh, are you denying that that Jews can have their genocide? And you're like, what are we talking about right now? But it's seen as this almost badge of civilization and of nationality when you successfully decimate and genocide an entire population to create your state, right? And you're like, yeah. Except for the problem is, your state was created in a time when we were all talking about how that was terrible and anti-colonial movements around the world were throwing off the yoke of their colonial oppressors, and including South Africa. And
it's a test of the authenticity of that progress.
Yes.
And we're failing.
Exactly. Well, 100%. And it's just wild because you're like, hey, just forget about it. Let us do our genocide. And, and as if the response you and I would have, Emma, is like, you're right. American genocide, Native American genocide was kind of legit and I support it. No.
Yeah, right.
No, I don't.
Right. And the idea that they're not willing to really examine their complete collapse into might means right arguments, which is just right-wing blood.
Can I just say
stuff? Yeah.
You've been crushing it on this. And
thank you.
Truly one of the few voices who's been crushing it so succinctly, so perfectly. And for anyone who's been introduced to this issue through the Majority Report, they are so lucky to have you because you have been just so clear, especially around, the power dynamics, always reminding us, never sort of falling for the little sand traps that are set up around this issue. And it's been, if you're not told enough, I'm telling you now.
No, you make me cry. This has changed my brain chemistry indelibly, and the fact that we can reach one person, right? Maybe change their mind. And I've always, so I really appreciate that because sometimes it feels like nothing's changing.
No, exactly. And you do it in a way that, look, I think a lot of us are scrolling through some of the worst things we've ever seen in our lives. I am a mom. I've seen way too many dead babies, and it is truly horrendous. And then you see schools like, universities being blown up. You see entire blocks being leveled. And to be able to, without showing your audience all of those images, but still have that, I think, urgency that we all need to have around this, knowing that all of this is going on every single day is really. Look, dude, guys, I made Emma cry, and if I could just get some,
Oh
likes,
my God, it's really not an easy feat. I cry at that Amazon commercial where all the women start sledding down, and "In My Life" by the Beatles starts playing. Yeah, so don't pat yourself too hard on the back. But
damn it, I haven't seen that one.
that I will say that is maybe the most emotionally manipulative commercial I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I watched that and I was so moved by it, and then it was Amazon. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ!
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah. It's
the Barbie movie when Billie Eilish starts to sing, and you're like, why am I crying in a Barbie movie?
It's like a Chevy ad in the movie.
Oh God, that car was so over the top, and it's like in the way that it was being advertised, that bright blue Chevy in that movie. Anyway, thank you, Francesca, and you've been amazing too. It's just been oddly a great moment of solidarity, I think, for many people who on the left may have even had some disagreements before. Like you're seeing a lot of most people in this space, I think, cover this adequately. Some not, but
it's interesting. It's a very interesting. I think there has been a great sort of coming together of a lot of even leftist commentators who I think have terrible takes around literally every single other thing.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting. Like, I don't know if you're waiting, but I'm waiting for someone in the Democratic administration. Like, obviously, a million people in Biden's administration have spoken out about this, including the State Department. But I'm waiting for some, dumb leftist to start to change their tune about Palestine because it's actually just more profitable and will get them more clicks to say things that are terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know who it will be yet.
Well, maybe text me later about who. We'll set some betting lines on who it's going to be. You mentioned that university. Can you get the footage of the demolition too? I think we'll play after this. Francesca, just wanted to get your reaction to this. This was yesterday, a State Department press briefing with Matt Miller and Matt Lee of the Associated Press, who is consistently a welcome, adversarial, excellent journalist in these State Department briefings and asks poignant, important questions. This is yet another example of his excellent journalism here, pressing Matt Miller on the video that the Israeli military sent out, bragging about it, showing what appears to be a controlled demolition of a Palestinian university. Now, if this had happened to Harvard Square, if this happened to Stanford, if this happened to Cambridge, it would be I can't even imagine what the reaction would be, right? I mean, they would be an act of war, and we would go absolutely berserk, worst terrorist attack in the history of our
suddenly the right would defend higher ed.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, those wonderful professors who we've been doxing.
Exactly. But because it's a university in Gaza and it's not a Western white superpower, it doesn't really count as an educational institution, right? The racism underlying all of this is just so profound. But that is the context here for Matt Lee questioning Miller.
And the last one, based on Saeed's question about the demolition of the university, I don't know if you've seen the video. It's pretty widely available, but it certainly looks. I mean, it looks like a controlled demolition. It looks like what we do here in this country when we're taking down an old hotel or a stadium. And you have nothing to say? You have nothing to say about this? I mean, to do that kind of an explosion, you need to be in there You have to put the explosives down, and it takes a lot of planning and preparation to do. And if there was a threat from this particular facility, they wouldn't have been able to do it.
So I have seen the video. I can tell you that it is something we are raising with the governor of Israel, as we often do when we see
raising is what?
When we see to ask questions and find out what the underlying situation is, as we often do when we see reports of this nature. But I'm not able to characterize the actual facts on the ground before hearing that response.
Yeah, but you saw the video.
I did see the video. I don't
mean,
know.
It looks like
it
looks like a bridge being imploded.
I don't know what was under that building. I don't know what was inside.
But it doesn't matter what was under the building, because they obviously got in there to put the explosives down to do it in the way that they did.
Again, I'm glad you have factual certainty about it. I just don't.
All I have is what I saw in the video.
I just
right?
don't.
And I think you guys saw it too.
Say, we did see it, and I can say that we have raised it with
and
the government of Israel.
And it's not troubling to you?
We are always troubled by any degradation of civilian infrastructure in Gaza, but without knowing the actual underlying circumstances. I'm a little hesitant, I think, for reasons that should be understandable, to pass definitive judgment on it from this podium.
Can I ask you just a
follow up?
Is there no follow-up after that? It goes to another person, yeah.
I think for reasons that are obvious, I am a massive coward. Look at my face. I will not go into it any further.
I am a paid liar for the State Department. Don't you understand that it's my job to eat shit, and then hopefully I'll be able to support another ethnic cleansing in 10 years when I get a promotion.
All of the biggest Biden administration freaks come from the State Department's press office. That's where Jen Psaki came from. Ned Price was the Animorph
Ned Price.
Animorph
was the Animorph predecessor of Matt Miller, and then now John.
They look exactly the same.
And then now John Kirby as well.
They're so,
just the smarmiest propagandists alive.
Because then in the actual State Department, there have been multiple dissent cables, but no one's talking about them. Not even the right is talking about them. Yeah. You know, when there was maybe almost a dissent cable, I believe when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, the right was obviously freaking out about it. Same with mainstream news, MSNBC or CNN or whatnot. But it's like, oh, dissent cables from inside the State Department? No. And there have been few resignations. Obviously, shout out to Tariq Habash for his resignation from the Department of Ed. But yeah, man, these goons, they're so sad. And you look, just what is the strategy to level a university? It's genocide. It's exactly. You will never return here. You will never, ever educate yourself here. You never educate your children here. What is the strategy to leveling whole blocks, whole apartment buildings that have been completely evacuated already? It's because, no, we want to build Israeli apartments here.
They're already advertising for it. They're already advertising. I just want to show the video of the demolition. This is just imagine if this was a historic American or British university, okay? Just imagine. For the podcast audience, there's no audio to this, but you'll see in a second. There we go.
My God. Oh my God.
And it was already, you could see the windows, hollowed out, bombed to oblivion in and of itself. But yes, as you say, like that is an act of genocide because it's erasing basically, records of life there, destroying the opportunity for higher education for 2.4 million people and declining as Israel continues its crimes of genocide. And a reminder to people, it's about destroying hope, right? You're not going to be able to get out. You either leave your homeland forever or you die. And all of your cultural touchstones will be eliminated. And
what are they afraid of? Unemployment level in Gaza was like 70%. You know what I'm saying? Like who are you actually afraid of? And this is the other thing. I'm sorry. Israelis are cowards. The IDF are nothing but cowards. They are detonating universities and whole blocks with no people in them. They're not even, and who they are afraid of are babies, are children, are civilians, are women, are men. It's just why, and they say it's a war. I mean, all you have to look at like is again Native American genocide. What was part of that? It was destroying education. It was re-educating, kids. It was obviously systematically abusing them, depriving them of, I mean, pretty soon we're going to see this kind of inside Israel as well. There are Palestinians, obviously, who live inside of Israel. They are already prevented from doing things like speaking Arabic out loud. They get followed by the cops if they do that. But I think we will see the more and more of the cleansing of even any kind of Palestinian life within inside Israel as we go forward, because that is part of this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, I've now read this on the show 3 days in a row, because there is right now a talking point from Israeli spokespeople that to call this a genocide is an insult to the memory of the Holocaust. Because in the West, really, since we are not adequately educating our population, the genocide is for many people synonymous with the Holocaust because it happened in Europe. It happened on a scale of unprecedented proportions. Obviously, the Nazi genocide of Jews and other people, 6 million Jews killed because it was so industrialized. It was so organized, and also many other European nations were complicit in it. For other genocides that are of smaller scales, typically it's within the borders of that nation, and they're not able to do it at that pace because of the way that the Holocaust was so structured in this like incredibly evil, terrifying way. But there have been many genocides: Cambodia, Armenian, the Native American people that you're talking about there,
Timor,
Rwanda. I mean, we could go on and on that meet these articles. Israel has exceeded these the planks here of Article 2 of the Genocide Conventions many times over. A, killing members of the group that they're targeting, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Obviously, A and B, they've already done so. C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. That is, destroying basically the entire North Gaza Strip, 85% of Palestinians displaced, no clean water, no food, no anesthesia, barely
now
any
no
hospitals
functioning hospitals. I believe the last hospital might have actually just gone become inoperable.
Nasser. Yeah, down in Khan Yunis, right? Because they're going into the south too, which now Hamas is everywhere apparently, and that also feeds into imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. 300% increase in miscarriages, stories of women giving birth on dirty floors without any kind of medical attention because the doctors that are still left and alive are having to treat the patients that are coming in and needing amputations and urgent medical care from the genocide. E is forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. That is the one where you can't necessarily say Israel meets that on its face. I would argue you could make a case that even prior to October 7th, the just locking up of any Palestinian children that they say threw rocks without any recourse and holding them indefinitely is the seizure of children from a population. But you don't even need to meet all five. They clearly have met A, B, C, and D. It is a genocide. It's a genocide.
Yeah. No, and thank God for South Africa for saying this. And I think the schools, look, the death, the babies, it's unconscionable. There's something extra cruel about going after schools, about seeing IDF soldiers, as I saw a few weeks ago, celebrating just in a classroom, all chatted up in his military gear, looking real hard, fighting who? A blackboard with just writing on it and a little, things on the wall that you see in elementary schools, taking it down, mocking the classroom. And the reason it feels more insidious is because, the whole hey, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, make something of your life. Like the children are the future, and the ways that Israelis are so paternalistic and racistly patronizing to Palestinians about how, well, look, if they wanted to better themselves, they would have done X, Y, and Z and other things that they'll never reach for me to not call them animals. Like, and education is part of that. Right? Yeah. Education and trying to get ahead and trying to, you know, be employable or whatnot, doing anything is part of that. They don't care. They ultimately don't care. And to say nothing of how much of the infrastructure in Gaza has actually been thanks to the international community that Israel has bombed. What about you, like UN funds or US funds? No, they don't care.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anywho.
All right, gonna read some IMs because you're mentioned here. Ash Manson says, "Thank you, Emma and Francesca. I never miss the Majority Report or the Bitchuation Room. You certainly don't have to change my mind about genocide. It just feels nice not to get gaslit when listening to your coverage. Even people ostensibly, quote, on our side are playing nuance bro about this, and it's sickening." I agree.
Yeah,
let's talk about the intrinsic moral character of Houthi militants, you know, because they referred to Israel as like Jewish or Jews.
The Zionist entity.
Yeah, I mean,
rather than a state. It's all in language.
No, but we should copy and paste like what is acceptable discourse at a dinner party here in the United States onto a completely different cultural context, as Israel refers to itself as the Jewish state within that region. And so the Arabs in the region sometimes colloquially refer to them as Jews when talking about Israel and say that it's anti-Semitic in the same exact way that it would be here in the US. I mean, that is also Western arrogance. Our context is understood by everybody. I don't know if you're aware of this. Because we're the wealthiest nation on earth and we're the world superpower, our cultural context is what everyone needs to subscribe to, or we're going to say you're a terrorist. And this is not pro-Houthis, but I'm just saying, like, essentially to say that that the Houthi militants are acting because of anti-Semitism, and that we can't basically say that their blockade of these ships is righteous in a way. The action in and of itself is righteous, not the group in and of itself. This is kind of basic geopolitics.
Yeah. How do they feel about trans rights?
Yeah, right.
That's what really matters here. And I think it's incredible. This week, Claire Daly in the Irish Parliament spoke out and basically said, Biden, don't ever claim Irish heritage. Like, get our names out your mouth. Get Ireland's name out your mouth. And it was so brilliant. And I do feel like it is important to remember something she said that sort of stuck with me, which was there's no way forward, and Israel knows there's no way forward out of this without them becoming a pariah state and with occupation and apartheid. And she said, quote, on borrowed time. And that is so right on. And I hope we make that true, that this is on borrow. They know that their time is waning to subjugate Palestinians in the way that they do. And we have to make good on that the world over. And the United States is the last to know, because people around the world, global south, all throughout Latin America, all throughout Africa, Asia, you saw South Africa take the leadership position. Palestinians are universal emblem of the colonized, the occupied, the resistance fighters, just as they once were against their colonial oppressors. So sorry, buds. Sorry.
All right. Well, I think we're spent here.
Girl, I will see you in San Francisco.
Yes. Everybody who hasn't yet, get those tickets. It's in the description there. Looking forward to seeing you in person, Francesca. It's been way too long.
Maybe if ever, maybe one time in DC long ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Saturday night, there's still tickets for Corn Pops and Space Lasers, we're calling it, because I couldn't think of anything else for a political comedy show. So apologies for that. But yeah, get tickets to that too on Saturday. And thanks so much.
Oh, yes. I thought that
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you guys. Francesca, check out the Bitchuation Room. It's wonderful. It's essential. Please check out Bad Hasbra, because I really truly live for Matt's your husband's TikToks.
Nazis are getting mad at him now because they don't understand.
It's like he has some sort of listening device in like my phone or something. I'm sure it's just the same with his Zionist friends and relatives. Like, this is the exact kinds of conversations I'm having that he mocks so cathartically. So really, really love what you guys are doing. And again, check out the Bitchuation Room. And if you're in San Francisco, I will be there next weekend with Francesca. Woo! All right. See you later.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, friend. All right, folks. With that, we are going to head into a truncated fun half. We will not be taking calls today. I mean, it's past 1:45 at this point. Check out Left Reckoning. Matt is out today. He'd been really doing a ton in Bradley's absence, so he's got a nice day off. Good for him. Check out ESVN. Bradley and I had a lot of fun. At least I had more fun than him because I hate the Cowboys with every fiber of my being, dancing on their grave, and the fact that they're keeping Mike McCarthy. Hilarious. We also gave our picks for the divisional round of the NFL season, which is getting very, very tight. Like, Bradley, who knows who's going to win and who's going to have to drink these disgusting things that Kowalski sent us, and more. YouTube.com/ESVN show. All right, folks. No calls. See you in the fun half.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
Fun. What is up, everyone? Fun.
Nomi Key.
You did it.
Fun.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Fun.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's...
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single frickin' day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Libertarians. They're so stupid, though. Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-35-501. 1/2. 3 8s.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6, 5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
Call it satire. Sam goes with satire.
On top of it all, my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
We are back. We are back, folks. It is the fun half. Gonna read some IMs and then we'll do some clips here. Dago Lefty, Emma, UCMJ Article 99 is called misbehavior before the enemy, where a service member can be punished for showing cowardice during battle. It drives me crazy that service members in an active war zone are held to a higher account than these chicken shit cops responding to a domestic crisis. Effing cowards. Agreed. Juniper J, let's cheer things up a bit. Any news stories on the climate crisis? Seriously, though, thank you for being the brave folks, the folks brave enough to speak the truth. Thank you. Thank you very much, Juniper. Morpheus, New York Times is reporting that Tim Scott is planning to endorse Trump ahead of South Carolina. I wonder if that'll get him a racist HUD appointment, Ben Carson style, if Trump ends up winning. Yeah, what they'll like create a new position for Tim Scott, just being like, this is our black guy, and we also hate. Oh, he'll lead the anti-DEI task force.
Right. It's either co-HUD secretaries or like the anti-wokeness czar.
Yes. Yes. Jeff from Maryland, something mainstream news seems to be leaving out about the Houthis is that the United States funded Saudi Arabia's years-long attempt to wipe them off the planet. Yes. It's almost like these networks are contractually obligated to routinely deceive readers and viewers. Yeah, there's a reason they don't like the U.S., and there's a reason that basically every Arab country in the Middle East does not like Israel. Because it's a outpost for U.S. interests in the region. And it's less than 100 years old. And it dramatically shifted power in the region to the detriment of many, many people there. Tom Servo, Francesca is so smart and funny and lovely. I agree. I would say moral too. I think she's just been awesome about this whole topic. Riled Up Riley says, Emma, I will be in the area because I'm flying from Texas to see y'all. So, oh my gosh, wow. So effing excited. I got my Christmas wish. My fam gave me 2 tickets to both shows. Proud member of Frantifa and MR for several years. They keep, oh, sorry, geez. Lost my place because the page moved. Thank y'all for doing, for all you do in these dismal times. Keep hope alive. Much love to all. Fight the power left is best. Looking forward to seeing you, Riled Up Riley, at the show. I can't believe you're coming from all the way out of town. That's amazing. Tom Servo, Francesca is so smart and funny and lovely. I just read that. Angela from Alberta, Israel has accused all Gaza-based university bastions of Hamas as an excuse to bomb all the universities there. Yeah. Elon Tusk, from the river to the sea was never the offensive part. Palestine will be free was always their problem. Well said. Machine Heavy Jugs says, Bassem Youssef made the point that Part E of the genocide criteria has been met over the last several decades if you watch the entire segment he did on PBD. Yes, I think that's that case makes sense that he's making. But like from South Africa's perspective, they need to make it as straightforward as possible, and their strongest legal case is to confine the acts of genocide to post October 7th. But we don't need E to be met for hopefully the right verdict to be made. And even if it's not, it would not change my opinion because I have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a brain, and I can read the genocide conventions and know that Israel is conducting one. Charlie She/Her, hugs from the Pacific Northwest. It's hard to hold back tears sometimes watching the slaughter being excused by the administration and people who call themselves leftists. It's engaging to know Biden and company likely won't face consequences for any of it. And as much I feel selfish for the thought, I can't help but feel the only people who will get punished for it are the people who depend on the Democrats to stop the fascism of the GOP from taking over. Much love to you all for your work, and F Butcher Biden. Yeah, I know. Sean Fain, demolishing the university gives big destruction of the Library of Alexandria vibes. Yikes. Yep. Backwoods Marxist. Emma, you're awesome. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Have you read my email? Honestly, the whole MR crew has been great on the Gaza genocide, and I am a proud member, upping my subscription if my raise kicks in. I love you folks. Thank you so much. Have you read my email? Dragon Person, regarding crying, Emma, it always makes me cry. We love your input so much. Francesca as well. Keep it up. I think you are moving many people. Thank you. Billy, Emma, you are constantly on the right side of history. You made me so happy with your support of trans rights, and now to see how hard you go on this genocide has been amazing and an honor to have your show and your voice as a part of my daily life. Thank you so strong. So very much. Love you. I really, really appreciate all these words of support. I don't know about you, Bradley, but it really makes me feel like we're actually making a difference, and that matters. All the stuff that we're putting out into the world.
And I think it should, and I don't. I'm not. This is not pandering to you, but I genuinely think, as a young woman in this space with the viewpoints that you're espousing and defending and advocating for, it's very important for you to feel supported because.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Because you received a disproportionate level of flack relative to the other people in the studio, the other men in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you, Bradley. All right, let's stop reading IMs for a second, and then we'll do some clips. We'll have some fun, actually, here for a little bit. What would you recommend here, Bradley, for fun stuff? I'm looking at it now. We never touch on this Nikki Haley thing. Okay, so let's do that. Nikki Haley, who is making a big push to beat Trump in New Hampshire, seems unlikely based on polling, but it's harder to discern in New Hampshire, just to give her side of things, because open primaries, independents regularly vote, even Democrats, they can vote in this primary too. It's just a different process in New Hampshire, and the Republicans in New Hampshire are technically more like moderate New England style Republicans who would be more drawn to a Nikki Haley over a Trump in theory, but Trump still leads hers in polling by basically every poll that you look at. And that primary is going to be on Tuesday. She got into some hot water recently in New Hampshire speaking about the Civil War, and she didn't say slavery one time in a question about it, and the guy asking her the question said, I'm floored, essentially, that you would not say the word slavery. Then at the next debate, she took a totally kind of different tone, more moderate, more critical of Trump on January 6th, speaking about abortion in a relatively compassionate way for a Republican, and the bar is the floor, obviously. But it seemed like she kind of had to recalibrate and go, shoot. I need these more moderate Republican voters in New Hampshire. If I have a snowball's chance in hell, I've got it's New Hampshire snowball's chance in hell. I have got to do well in New Hampshire, if not win it, because I need this Koch brothers money. One of them's dead, but their fund or whatever, to keep funding me, because a lot of money has come to her that isn't going to DeSantis anymore. She may have taken a step back in that effort here. What the hell was she thinking? Here we go.
I ask you about a comment you made earlier this week. You said that America has, quote, never been a racist country, unquote. Protections for the institution of slavery were written into the U.S. Constitution. The White House was built with slave labor. Your home state of South Carolina seceded from the Union, fought a war to defend the enslavement of black people. I understand you don't think America is a racist country now, but we're here at a college. Do you really think as a historical matter, America has never been a racist country?
I mean, think about what you're saying. First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that, men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? That was what we all knew. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful they didn't. Because for every brown and black child out there, if you tell them they live or were born in a racist country, you're immediately telling them they don't have a chance. And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country. And so I think it's important that we tell all kids, that, look, America is not perfect. We have our stains. We know that. But our goal should always be to make today better than yesterday. It's hugely important. And that's the problem I have is we have too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. We have got to go back to loving America. We are blessed because that little brown girl in that small rural town in South Carolina, she grew up to become the first female minority governor in history. She then went on to be UN ambassador, and now she's running for president of the United States. I want every brown and black child to see that and say, no, I don't live in a country that was formed on racism. I live in a country where they wanted all people to be equal and to make sure that they had life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, but just to...
Do we have his follow-up? Can we see if we can find that? Let's see if Bradley's going to look that up, because I need to hear if he asked the obvious question there, which is, okay, you're making the claim now when you're talking to black and brown kids in the United States that America is not a racist country. But that was not the question. First of all, that's laughable, of course. But the question was, you said that America has never been a racist country, and as Tapper aptly points out, slave labor built our Washington, D.C. landmarks. The slavery was in the Constitution. It is such a laughable claim, especially from a governor that took down the Confederate flag when she was in office, basically listening to some of the activists that were pushing for that on the claiming that it was a symbol of that racism. So
which
she
dragged
knows,
her feet on also, by the way.
Of course she dragged her feet on.
She didn't do it until the Charleston shooting anyway. So,
she did it. And then and there was an activist woman that climbed the flagpole and took it down. There were wonderful anti-racist groups that pushed her on this, but she did it, meaning she understood the historical racism that was undergirding their claims, and yet now she's playing dumb.
It's really rich. I don't know if you'll recall, Emma, the her initial foray into the ad space for her campaign when she was announcing, when she was like, I was born on one side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Where the white people were on one side and the other people were on the other side. But I never felt like I was any different or that there was any sort of like handicap for me. It's like, I wonder why the white people were on one side of the tracks and then the other minorities supposedly were on the other. That's interesting. And then now she at least is more willing to say that there was some racism on an individual level. But overall, to me, this is the most gentle way of someone to basically express their views on the woke mind virus.
Yes.
This is basically Nikki Haley very gently saying, racism doesn't exist. It's a mindset. And if you're told that you're going to be less successful because of your ethnicity, you're going to do worse as a person.
Yeah. I mean, it
doesn't actually exist.
Make your bed in the morning.
Yeah, it is the most gentle way of her literally espousing like the Elon Musk far right Groyper bullshit about wokeness.
Yeah. All right, here's what Tapper said.
Just to push back a bit, because I was a history major in New Hampshire. You're talking about the ideals of America. But America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look at said all men are created equal, I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happen over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with. I refuse to believe that. I have to know in my heart and in everybody's heart that we live in the best country in the world, and we are a work in progress, and we've got a long way to go to fix all of our little kinks. But I truly believe our founding fathers had the best of intentions when they started, and we fixed it along the way, and we should always look at it that way.
So silly chicken shit. I mean, what else?
This
do
is
you
a
wanna
real
say?
feelings don't care about your facts argument. from Nikki
Exactly.
Haley. She literally says, I just can't accept it. I will not accept it.
I will not accept
Despite reams of evidence to the contrary, I will not accept it. Now, let me take a long sip of coffee and look at the Mississippi state constitution from 1860 explaining why they were seceding from the Union.
Yeah, it's a laughable claim. It's a laughable claim. No one is speaking individually about the moral character of the saintly founding fathers that she holds so dear and apparently seemingly prays to or something like that, because they can do no wrong. The founding fathers were human beings too. They're like, the idea that they had racist or not racist intentions would mean that they had a modern conception of what racism was, as opposed to what was the order of things, which was that black people were property. So I don't know, they weren't really talking about how a white fragility at that point in history. It just was completely embedded into the fabric of society at that point. So I mean, she just has to filibuster, but I really am shocked that she returns to this or regresses to this point. Maybe she feels comfortable now with New Hampshire. Like, she's operating incredibly cynically. Does she feel comfortable with where she's at in New Hampshire? Does she think that New Hampshire voters are going to be more in favor of this argument, even though those in South Carolina would be more likely to accept this kind of lost cause stuff? But damn, she's walking some sort of tightrope, and I'm not sure what the end game is.
I mean, in my view, the reason why I think her cynicism and that the depravity within that cynicism is basically boundless is that she is doing her absolute level best to skate the line on all of the culture war, economic populist stuff, while being a little bit less rowdy or debaucherous as Trump is when he talks about it, while also sort of deflecting most of, if not all of, the criticism of Trump, because as much as she wants to potentially win this nomination, I think she's realistic enough to know that she won't.
Yeah.
But she just also knows that she does want to have a bit of a soft landing when she inevitably drops out and endorses Trump.
Yep. That's I think that's a fair read of things here.
Because this is all pro wrestling shit for the Republicans who are ultimately going to fall in line behind Trump, the non-never Trumper sect, because Vivek and Trump had some heat for approximately 48 hours until Vivek was like, no, I'll drop out. Let me on stage. Let me give you a hug. Like, there's no that this stuff dissipates the second the ring kissing starts. So Haley knows her spot for until Trump dies or goes to jail. She knows that she's got to be a slight lockstep before 2028 to at least be seen as a slight descendant of the big guy.
Vox Populi says her fundamentalism to the founding fathers myth is a straitjacket. She sounds so nervous answering because she knows it's bunk. Of course she does. She's not an idiot. Christmas Tree Farm. Nikki Haley, I didn't mention racism to that journalist at my press conference because otherwise young POC would think that they don't have a chance. Also, Nikki Haley, young women have depression because of trans people. Not. The Native Americans weren't ever equal, even now. Good point. Daniel Pennick says, someone tell Nikki Haley that facts don't care about her feelings. Jonathan Arms said, thank you both for using ESPN to counter the right-wing nonsense I see from sports fans and talk radio. Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry are getting their numbers retired by the Mets this summer. The last few days I've been seeing right-wingers on social media making the same stupid joke about how their past drug use and saying that Hunter Biden will be there to throw out the first pitch. They all think they're so original. Yeah, as they pretend like they care about mental health and fentanyl coming over the border, they want to rip into every person who may have a problem with addiction and then use it for salacious content that they can blow up for an impeachment inquiry for question mark. We don't know, but
the famously all-black 1986 New York Mets who are all sleeping with each other's wives and snorting cocaine in the dugout.
Did sound like they had a great time.
I think that season you live it up, and then it's the.
Is there a documentary about the '86 Mets? There should be.
I have to. I can't imagine there isn't. I don't know about the quality of it, but
they may not want to tell what they really were. But it was a fun time.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were basically like it was the equivalent of like a Motley Crue tour. The way that they were like.
Everyone was doing blow. I mean, Lawrence Taylor was on cocaine like all the time when he was playing for the Giants. Greatest defensive player of all time, coked out of his mind, tackling guys and screaming, "We just gotta go at him like a pack of wild dogs." That's his famous line.
Eyes wide open.
Oh, so yeah,
dilated.
Just locked in. It's amazing. There really should be a documentary on that. Dick Durbin superfan Haley self-reporting there. If you're black or brown, you haven't got a chance. That is what they believe and fight for. Antonin Scalia's Ghost. It's really hard to keep loving America after learning the nitty-gritty of American history. Varong from California. Emma, please don't park on the street in San Francisco. The car will most likely be broken into no matter what safety measures you take. Paying for parking isn't crazy expensive, and it's worth it to avoid the hassle. Okay, I mean, Dan, Francesca's not a NIMBY, so if she's saying it, you guys are saying it, I will be careful with the car. Thank you. I don't even register because I live in New York and I don't have a car. Like, oh, I've got to worry about the car. I can't just take the subway home or an Uber. I've if I'm drinking, I gotta. Oh, okay, right. Like, I got to figure that out. It takes a second, having lived in the city for so many years at this point, but and not having a car. It'll be fun though to be out in San Francisco. I'm Sam says the MR team is always so well informed. Where do you get your news? Well, I get it from Bradley, who puts together, and Corey, who very kindly filled in for Bradley when Bradley was away.
Big thank you to Corey for filling in on my news compiling duties when I was on my honeymoon.
If people are curious, Bradley probably puts together a packet of around 60 pages of news every day, or that's rough, like 50 to 65 pages of headlines and news. We don't get to every story, but like, it's a great resource, and we'll read through a lot of it, Sam and I, in the morning, and that's how we get our news for the most part. Sam also has his own system that, like, is very specific to his workflow of him collecting his own articles that he sees, and he often forgets to send them to me. But that's part of really how it goes. And I have my own stuff too, right? But we have a baseline of news that Bradley helps put together for us.
Yeah, it's a lot of different, like your standard news aggregating
Washpo,
newsletters, as
New York
well
Times,
as websites like Ground.news, which we advertise for. Memorandum is another great aggregating resource, and then all of our favorite websites like the American Prospect, and
right, the Intercept,
Labor Notes, the Intercept, in these times,
yeah. So like we'll do. Basically, it's the New York Times, Washington Post, Politico sometimes, and then Bradley will also put in together like a labor website that's reporting on that, or the Intercept's reporting on national security, or right. So if that helps, people can peek behind the curtain there a little bit. So what? Tater Tot Bradley with the top rope Animorphs reference. Well done. I agree. All right, let's do another clip here. Okay, 15. Let's just have fun. Candace Owens is not talking about Israel anymore, is my understanding. It's weird. She actually was tweeting some things that could have been construed as pro-Palestinian at one point early on. Ben Shapiro, her boss, went public about how disgusted he was about it. And frankly, I don't trust Candace Owens to have arrived at Israel critique by a ideology that anyone should feel comfortable with. I mean, this is the woman who was defending Kanye West's insane anti-Semitism on her program. So let's basically just do not give her any props whatsoever for stumbling upon a position that might be slightly correct when it's not viewed through her bigotry. But she's kind of been quiet about that ever since her boss, Ben Shapiro, was like, hey, no. Cut it out. I mean, that's my conjecture. I don't know if they had those conversations, but I think it's reasonable to infer. She's on something even more important here. I want people to
this is a
to brace themselves.
There's a bit of a trigger content warning.
Content warning for the story that Candace Owens is blowing open here about a beloved childhood classic.
All right, guys, now it's time to get into some of your comments, or rather to respond to a lot of the comments that I received pertaining to The Wizard of Oz and Black Twitter making me aware that actually what happened to the witch was outrageous.
Okay, pause. So go back to the tweet. First, so she's speaking derisively about Black Twitter here, but like, is that what it is? I'm not exactly sure. Or she's agreeing? Okay, here we go. This is what this person tweeted. In hindsight, the Wicked Witch of the West have every reason to light Dorothy's ass up. How are you gonna kill my sister and steal her red bottoms, you hillbilly bitch? Which is an amazing tweet. The Wicked Witch of the West totally justified in lighting Dorothy's ass up. I mean, this has been explored in the musical Wicked. That's right. This has been Elphaba is misunderstood, folks. She just was not liked
consequences for the actions of Dorothy far beyond what it was ever known in the 1939 movie.
Yes, she had to be exiled because she was not of the right skin color, and people did not. I mean, the justice obviously for Elphaba. Did not look. I'm a white girl who grew up in the tri-state area and was born in the 90s. I freaking love Wicked, so I'm well versed in this. Anyway, keep going.
Yes. Now, first, speaking of Matt Walsh, I actually took this issue so seriously. I texted him over the weekend because I went back to revisit the clip after many of you wrote in that no, what Dorothy did was manslaughter. She accidentally killed the witch, making her not that bad of a person. So what I'm going to do for this comment section is I'm going to take you very slowly through what really took place in this scene after, again, Dorothy murdered somebody's sister and then stole her shoes, stole her red bottoms. So first, just to provide you guys a background of what took place before I even show you the clip. Before the Wicked Witch, if that's what we're calling her, shows up, the Munchkins, Oompa Loompas, whatever you want to call them, are throwing a party while there is a dead person under a house, and they're skipping with Dorothy saying, "Ding dong, the witch is dead." While there's a dead person at center, right? There's somebody that's dead, and they're dancing and saying, "Witch, oh witch, the Wicked Witch." Obviously, this is some sort of a satanic ritual. So I want to make that clear. They're having a satanic ritual. It's the only reason you would have a dead person and dance around them. And then the witch ends the party when she shows up and finds her dead sister.
Munchkins, Oompa Loompas, what do you...
just really skipping into another universe from Wizard of Oz to Willy Wonka, that they're just interchangeable little people in both movies.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just got to say, I am almost in admiration of the level of seriousness that she applies to this story. I mean, she does not even crack a smile as she's speaking about the Munchkin satanic ritual around the dead body. I mean, it's like, do we know what they did with the body after? Did the Munchkins commit necrophilia? Yeah. There's a lot of questions about what they did.
Probably drank her blood.
I mean, probably. So Dorothy committed manslaughter.
No, murder. It's a capital offense.
Sorry.
It wasn't an accident.
How was it not an accident?
She murdered her.
Yeah, I understand. She didn't. All right. I need to stop laughing. This is a serious story.
She killed her. She murdered her.
Stop laughing.
She murdered her.
I mean, the way that you're honestly treating this story with such glib humor makes me kind of question where your allegiance. Are you aligned with God, or are you aligned with the satanic Munchkins?
The Munchkins revealed Dorothy's intentionality by making a ritual out of it.
I mean, so honestly, there should be some sort of inquiry into the coordination between Dorothy and the Oompa Loompas.
That's right.
First, the tip of the spear, Dorothy in her house, killing the Wicked Witch of the East, and then the ritual that preceded, or not preceded, that followed, obviously, making sure that they desecrated the corpse for Satan. So it's I don't understand why it's murder and not manslaughter. She's assuming that Dorothy did not have. I'll act as Dorothy's defense here. She didn't have control of the house when it went into the.
But that's what we're
tornado.
That's what we're led to believe.
Right.
We just saw Dorothy acting all innocent while killing the Wicked Witch of the East
accidentally.
But we're just going to presume that there was no intent, that she had no control over the house.
Does she have some new archive footage that we're able to access? Candace seems to have a lot of information that I'm not privy to.
I think we have been misted by Dorothy in our cultural imagination for decades.
I mean, let's be real here. Dorothy is guilty of manslaughter and theft. Because she stole the red shoes. Theft. If you saw it, if you remember, we have visual evidence of Dorothy wearing those shoes and then fleeing back to Kansas, crossing state lines.
Criminality.
Just brazen disrespect for the rule of law. Probably Antifa.
Interdimensional grand larceny occurring between the United States and Oz.
And then where is the recourse for the Munchkins who participated in the desecration of the body and then also hailed to Satan?
Well, if those types of rituals are condoned in Oz, it speaks to a greater depravity and a greater illness within the society.
Yes, the sickness, the sick moving away from Christ as the Savior. The witches knew it. This is an odd move for her to take, because I would have assumed that the witches would have been the ones that are closer to Satan as opposed to the Oompa Loompas, because that's kind of traditionally been lore. But man, I mean, really, Wizard of Oz took us for a loop here. That movie that's nearly 100 years old at this point.
We're gonna have a lot to think about.
We have to go back in the archives and solve this crime.
So, we're gonna have to do ourselves a favor and put on the Dark Side of the Moon vinyl and watch this. Just watch it to see the thematic undertones that have occurred between both pieces of media.
And when you watch it backwards,
then we'll really see what's going on with Satan.
It's when you watch it backwards, you hear. You hear. I mean, I don't even know what to.
Dorothy's like, I am the tornado.
When you listen to it backwards, it's the Iranian Shah calling for the destruction of the United States.
And Oz. Interesting.
Interesting.
Plot thickens. Do you know that the guy, the person who found out, or at least one of the first accounts of like playing Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety, relative to the Wizard of Oz movie, and seeing like thematic similarities between the soundtrack and the film is now like a New York Times, like Maggie Haberman colleague. His name Charlie Savage. He's like a Pulitzer Prize winning security reporter. Basically, he is like a college student in Indiana. Was like the first person to ever write about like pairing those two together.
Interesting.
Yeah, just a fun fact there.
Fun fact. Dave the Trade says, Emma, I'm glad you have definitive proof that Dorothy wasn't in control. Are you being sarcastic? I guess if it was in her dream, as is alluded to at the end of the movie, you're technically in control of your subconscious. It's a thought crime. Catfish James, not for nothing, but the original 1900 book is often looked at as an allegory for the politics of its time, the Cowardly Lion being William Bryan Jennings, the Wicked Witches representing the cities on the east and west coast, the Good of Witch of the North being Canada, so on and so forth. That's very interesting. Vox Populi, clearly they conjured the tornado to swirl Dorothy's house. This is a deep state climate change conspiracy. Paint Ship Taster, shocked by the disgusting bigotry of Emma calling the Munchkins Oompa Loompas. Do better. I didn't. That was a quote from Candace. Don't accuse me of something.
We're
like
drawing
that.
upon the archival research.
Yes.
This is not our own. We didn't do this originally. We're going from the source.
Jeff from Maryland, just asking for the record, but has Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL condemned Benjamin Netanyahu for saying from the river to the sea? Of course not. But good point. Congressional baseball fan. Hold on, you guys. You have to drop the needle on the dark side of the moon right when Candace starts talking to get the full experience of this rundown of Wizard of Oz. I think I am that before you even said that. So great minds. Number 13. I heard the Grand Mufti gave Dorothy the idea to murder the Wicked Witch. Dick's Durban superfan. Kiss Candace goodbye. Goodbye. She's defying depravity. Kowalski from Nebraska. How did Dorothy commit manslaughter if the house that got thrown in a twister landed on someone? That's not manslaughter. That's just an act of nature. And the Wicked Witch of the West was killed in an act of self-defense, to which all of her minions should be immediately celebrated, which tells me she was a bad boss. At best, you could get her on the theft of the shoes, which is technically the desecration of a corpse. Also, people just celebrate about the death of folks all the time. A group of people showed up at the lighthouse in 2011 after the death of Osama bin Laden to celebrate. I'm not saying they were Satanists in the crowd, but not all of them were.
You're such a zebra, Kowalski.
Yeah, truly.
You think the conventional wisdom is all there is. You think that what you see is all that there is. Who do you believe?
Yeah, right.
Me or your lying eyes?
We know. All right. One more clip here. What should we do? What are you feeling? You did Nikki Haley. Okay. Which one is the Trump clip that you're referring to? Oh yeah, no. This is what I did want to do Trump last night. So, Nikki Haley did a town hall last night ahead of the New Hampshire primary on CNN, and like he loves to do, Trump found a way to counter program. He did this with a debate between Haley and DeSantis. He did something on Fox News or town hall during that time, and so he decided that he was gonna go on Sean Hannity's program in the middle of her town hall, drawing ratings away from her. Nothing in this world that this man loves more than beating someone in the ratings. And fortunately for him, because no Republican voter gives a crap about anyone except Donald Trump. They love him despite it all. 91 charges, 2 impeachments, inciting an insurrection, doesn't matter. Trump. So here he is last night speaking to Sean Hannity, and Hannity asks him after Trump won Iowa handily what his closing message was for primary voters in New Hampshire, the second primary. This is what Trump had to say.
What is your closing message to the people in New Hampshire?
It's very simple. It's make America great again. But I think very important, before we do this, because you were talking about the Supreme Court, they have 2 votes that are very important coming up. One is, as we discussed, we call it Colorado or whatever, but I really believe they're going to leave the people to vote. Again, you're the leading candidate in both parties. You're leading the Democrats by many, many points. I mean, it's hard to imagine they would do. And most states have already approved it, as you know. Very few states have done that. This is Colorado and a couple of others at this moment. But they have another important, and that's immunity for the president. The president of the United States, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about any president, has to have immunity. Because if you take immunity away from the president, so important, you will have a president that's not going to be able to do anything. Because when he leaves office, the opposing party president, if it's the opposing party, will indict the president for doing something that should have been good, like Obama.
What is your closing message?
I did everything right and they indicted me.
The message is the slogan that he's been using for 8 years now, and then please help me stay out of jail.
Yes, right.
Begging you to help me notably begging you to help me stay out of prison.
Right, and he's like, and he said at one point, not me, not necessarily me. I'm not talking about myself.
This is for every president who has been indicted for on criminal charges before. And so, to be clear, that's not just me.
He said, I'm not talking about myself. I mean, it's for anybody. It's for Obama. It's for crooked Joe Biden. I call her beautiful Hillary now. I call him crooked.
Which I find rich, because I'm like, you're saying this is going to be really difficult if he hypothetically wins the presidency and then wants to obviously, do his favorite thing, which is prosecute his political opponents. He's really, really pushing for Joe Biden to confer presidential immunity for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
By making this case for himself as well.
Trump saying, my closing argument to the people of New Hampshire: make us kings, please. I know that your slogan is live free or die. But And that's kind of to harken back to that little American Revolution thingamajig where you were in opposition to a monarchy.
He's like, Thomas Paine, folks. They're calling me Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine.
Common sense, folks. There's Patrick Henry. They're saying live free or die, folks.
But make me a king. Make me just can you just make me a king, please? Can you just make sure I'm immune from the laws of the land because I'm a president? Because I wouldn't be able to do what I want to do. You know what I'm talking about?
Let's make America great again and save me! I'm begging you.
Because I'll be a dictator just for one day. Because I'm going to keep saying, Hannity had that other thing with him where he gave him the easiest softball. It's like this, hey. Trump, these crazy Democrats keep saying you want to be a dictator. I mean, can you just tell them you don't want to be a dictator, please? Only for one day.
He's like, this guy's freaking out over here.
We should
load of this guy.
Yeah, this guy's a freaking rhino. I mean, you don't want me to be a dictator? What are you, a commie? Just for one day. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me. Just for one day, I'll be a dictator. This is his entire campaign.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
the thing is that he literally might win. He's favored to win right now.
Well,
there's a lot of election to go. But
as what I find fascinating, there's I'm curious maybe if someone in the audience might know the name of this, because it was mentioned on an old episode of If Books Could Kill, the podcast by Peter Shamshri, aka Lawboy, and Michael Hobbs, it's a fantastic show.
Two wonderful folks.
There's this book or this phenomenon based off a book based off this phenomenon where basically a cult in some way, there's like, I don't remember the specific particulars, but it was basically like a cult faction or something had a date for like when the rapture, or when their fated date of whatever they were looking towards,
they always change it,
would come.
Yes.
Right. And then when it came and went, nothing happened.
We did the math wrong.
Yeah. If anything, it did not dispel them from their conclusion. It actually galvanized them further to continue to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, honestly, Trump has harnessed that so expertly in a shocking way, where it's like every successive issue that he weaves into the fabric of his own prosecution,
mm-hmm.
and just kind of continues to add more and more enemies to his repertoire.
Yeah.
So that it becomes almost like this in-group language where it's like, we are all waiting for the next thing. He is not, because I watch so many of his speeches, unfortunately, sometimes full through. And the closing for a lot of it is he says, I am being prosecuted because they want to prosecute you, and I am standing in their way.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, rhetorically, I mean, it's absolutely the most fanatical shit in the entire world. But I think if you're that person, the idea of Trump, like, literally valorizing himself to save you from whatever forces, known and unknown, are attacking him because they're trying to get to you, it's like,
it's a rubber band ball.
You'd run through a wall for this guy.
Yeah.
Because he's basically making it seem like I am literally the only thing that's protecting you in this country.
Yeah, the more like rubber bands of like aggrievement and cult-like devotion that get added to the rubber band ball, the higher it frickin' jumps, like, and the higher it bounces.
Because even when he, for example, as a result of that, similarly, like when he mentions like Comey, I'm like, that was so long ago in the lore for this. It's like
He'll never let it go.
Mentioning Comey is like when you go, like, for me, like I'm a Fish fan. It's like when you hear a Comey mention, or like Peter Strzok, or like Susan Page, lovely Susan Page, or Lisa Page, I don't remember her name. From the FBI, it's like hearing like a song that they haven't. You go back and like go back and like setlist.fm, or like oh shit, they haven't played that since 2015.
Oh wait, I remember Gavin DeGraw.
Yeah, right. Literally, it's like like oh my god, he mentioned that. Like that guy is gonna play that song. Like
oh yeah, Chariot by Gavin DeGraw. Yeah. Right, that was like somewhere in the back of my mind. Yeah, and Trump's is like Ryan Cabrera. Yeah. Remember?
He's like
remember that?
He's like Daniel Powder, folks. Yeah, you had a bad day.
Yeah. That's the playlist that I want, folks.
James Blunt, folks. You're beautiful. It's just all like the obscurities only serve, I think, to like the lore and the backfilling of so much of like the narrative stuff.
Yeah,
is so central to the appeal that it becomes like their own story as well, not just Trump's. And like, that's what I think makes him so formidable, is that it has really nothing to do with the Republican Party at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think that's fundamentally what Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and all the others have really made the mistake of trying to get past, which is that you can't beat a Messiah.
Yeah.
When the Messiah is alive.
And when you're talking about how this relates to end time stuff, same people that believe that crap love Trump.
That's right.
So they just copy and paste. They copy and paste the Jesus stuff, the evangelical Jesus stuff, onto Trump. He's our savior. What he does is right inherently. And he's an imperfect messenger. And then also just like the conspiracy of it all is the same thing as the Trump candidacy. So, did you want to pull up something, or? Okay, Bradley's got something cooking over there. It's what he's talking about here. Well, Past the Time says Hannity isn't the rhino he campaigned for Trump. I was joking. I know he's as close to Trump as it gets, but it's hilarious that he tries to give him a softball about being a dictator, and he can't even answer that. Fizzy Drink says, tell us more about how Biden should be in jail, Donald. Yeah, exactly. Bradley's almost there. So, he got it. He got it. Sergeant Flux, by all means ignore this last sentence for being vulgar, but it wasn't Dorothy's decision to put on the ruby slippers. The Good Witch put the shoes on Dorothy's feet without Dorothy's consent. Good Witch of the North, more like rude bitch of the North. Whoa, Sergeant Flux. Okay.
So just to give you some context, this was from either yesterday or the day before. Oh, it was from yesterday. Laura Ingraham had Robert Unanue, who is the Goya Foods CEO, like the beans.
Right. They love Trump.
He's like, he's become like a conservative firebrand because he's like the anti-woke beans guy.
Right. I remember everyone was farting all over the place to support Trump.
Yeah, absolutely right. Exactly. So like this is just to support or burnish what we've been saying about how even people in this. Even as someone like this, like a conservative entrepreneur or a conservative businessman is going on Laura Ingraham's program and talking about Trump very seriously with like no kind of like strange overtone. I mean, in the sense of like, it's just very much this is just like almost like boilerplate messaging for Trump.
Okay. I haven't seen this yet. So, oftentimes Matt will pull up something cold and make me laugh about it. This is Bradley's cold clip for Emma. Here we go.
It's basically a war. We've ignited a war, a spiritual war, good versus evil. And, you have somebody like Trump, in my opinion, has been predestined not only to bring us back to prosperity, but to bring us closer to God. He's someone who is a builder. We need to love, build, and unite. What we're doing is we're dividing, hating, and destroying. We're dividing. Even the Pope, this thing he's also declared on Davos, that, about this globalization. He's vilified Trump. He's praised Biden, who went to the White House. He's called him a good Catholic. And, what he's doing is dividing. And, he's also defrocked his detractors like Strickland, like Burke, like Father Frank Pavone, who's a priest for life.
He's a builder.
Right, so like the
is he a carpenter?
There's so much there in terms of like the mythologizing of Trump's like own backstory, but also saying like he's literally a conduit over the literal Pope.
Yeah.
Over the literal Pope, he is the conduit to God.
It is really shocking. Do we know if he is a Catholic himself? No, CEO Robert Unal. I'm trying to look this up because him speaking about the Pope like that. I mean, he said crazy things about how the coronavirus response was the dawn of a new world order. He has all of like those kinds of end times philosophies laid down, and that's what he believes. But truly, I mean, that's what Mike Pence spoke about in that lengthy profile. I think it was in the New Yorker about when he first kind of got onto the ticket with Trump, and maybe the piece was written after. But it was about how, despite him being an evangelical, he doesn't really care about Trump's multiple divorces, his philandering, his crudeness, his gluttony. I mean, everything that's supposedly ungodly because he's an imperfect messenger for God's will, aka, you know, he'll put Supreme Court judges in who will overturn Roe v. Wade and do all the Christian theocracy stuff. And by the way, Pence was right and probably feels like he served God adequately there.
Right, and I think that's the other aspect too, is that in this religious imagination or like this religious myth making behind Trump, there are always ways to work around it within the context or the language of either the Bible or faith itself.
Yeah.
That the trope of the imperfect messenger, the trope of him being a builder, someone who like creates, and someone who
someone who contracts employees to build things and then
doesn't pay
does wage theft. Yeah.
Like there's always ways to sort of flatten but also like serve the purpose of Trump as basically the all-encompassing, the all-worldly, like the only answer, like literally the only answer to the problems of the country or the problems of the person, the problems of the individual.
It's the same way that QAnon people also use a religious construction when they think everything is connected. Tom Hanks is down with Oprah and Hillary drinking the blood of the children, because it's mythology. There's not really reason attached to it. That, you know, these are people that are in Hollywood, not in government, or this is a guy that's a kind of arrogant, mentally unique man who is the son of a father who never really was proud of him, and he's constantly proving that and overcompensating and cheating people. That's Trump, right? But he's actually he's like Jesus in the way that he's a carpenter, he's a builder. That is something to behold. And I just want to point out, Matt has said this before, that there are Catholics who believe that because this Pope is a little bit more on the progressive side as popes go, which, you know, as popes go, he's a good one, right? But the very, very limited because it's Catholicism and religion.
He's like more supportive of civil unions for gay people than any pope before him, but he also believes that like surrogacy is a form of human trafficking.
Yeah. So that's not great, but I also like that he spoke out about Gaza. But there are conservative Catholics who think he is the Antichrist and is posing as the Pope. I would love to find out about this guy's religious leanings. It seems like he may be Catholic and he may actually believe that. And then what do we think about who Trump is? Is Trump the true Pope? Reasonable minds may differ. All right, folks.
Can we just really quick watch this? This is.
You want to hang out here more on a Friday? You've been missing work that much?
This is a crime because I want to play a clip.
Fine, I have nowhere to be.
This is a crime because I want to play a clip of Doug Burgum without Matt here, which is really not nice. But Doug Burgum was, they think, the first ex-presidential candidate to endorse Donald Trump, even before Vivek Ramaswamy, and
no one noticed.
Right, and
he didn't think to do what Vivek did, which was give a speech with Trump after Iowa,
publicly,
and try to basically kiss him on stage for 20 minutes so he could get every single camera angle.
Yeah, Burgum's a little humbler than that. So this was Burgum with Martha McCallum on Fox talking about why he endorsed Trump and what he really admires about the guy.
These are the things that matter. He gets it right.
This is a guy who's tireless in his work ethic. I had a chance to be with him earlier this week. Guy works 20 hours a day, and he's doing it. He wouldn't have to be doing this. He's doing it because he cares deeply about America and the direction of where America's going.
Sure.
The people that we met when campaigning in Iowa and New Hampshire understand that. They've got to.
First of all, Trump works in the way that Elon Musk works. They're on their phone a lot.
They're sitting watching. His work is literally watching like 23 hours of cable television.
I mean, media diet is like 80% of my work. I've got to watch Fox and Friends. I turn off Martha McCallum over there. I mean, she's just kind of a rhino.
Excuse me.
I don't really like the. Excuse me. I don't like the daytime stuff. That's more. That's when I get my golf in.
He's like, I TiVo Martha.
Yeah.
I TiVo her.
Yeah, but there's not enough opinion for him, Martha McCallum. And then we get to the good stuff. I mean, Hannity. Oh. And I like that Jesse Waters. That's his work. And then the work ethic thing. A lie by Burgum there, because it's well documented that Trump is incredibly lazy and doesn't read. But go back just like 10 seconds. Oh, and I love that they have the Vivek endorsement on there. I mean, Vivek wants to get a photo op of Trump kissing him. Not really, but you know what I mean. Close.
The people that we met when campaigning in Iowa and New Hampshire understand that. They've got a deep love for the president. They understand that he's out there fighting for him. And again, this makes is the right sense. We're going to see all kinds of folks endorsing the president in the next few months, because he's going to win this nomination. This race may be over as soon as next Tuesday. When he's the nominee, you're going to see a lot of folks that are nominating him. But again, I've been in his court since 2016, and I'm still there.
So but you said you wouldn't want to. You're known by the company you keep, and you wouldn't want to do business with him. I'm just giving you a chance to comment on that. Do you not feel that way now, or was that campaign talk, or how would you characterize it?
Well, in 6 months, it's interesting. I've seen this clip multiple times this week. In 6 months, I said only positive things about President Trump, and this one clip comes up. And it's funny, nobody in the national media has asked me about would I do business with Joe Biden. No one's asked me about anybody else.
All
and
right.
So this is.
Let me ask you this.
What do you mean nobody's asked you? You said it. You said it.
He immediately is like, "What the fuck, Martha?"
Yeah, come on.
I got through this so smoothly.
I mean, Bergamentum was on its way up, and you've got to halt it. You got to put a roadblock there with, my words.
I love how even Martha McCallum, who is like pretty, obsequious in her own right for the so-called hard news anchor on Fox, even she gets a chuckle at how cynical it is of Doug Burgum being like, I've only said one bad thing about him in 6 months. I'm such a bootlicker. Like you're.
It didn't prevent J.D. Vance from. I mean, he literally said Trump was. What did he call him? A dictator or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't. And then he's the biggest Trump guy out there. Didn't prevent Chris Christie
from making the switch the other way, from being his first endorser out of the 2016 primary.
No, that wasn't a good example. Ted Cruz is a better example. Rubio,
Lindsey Graham.
Yes. Oh, Lindsey Graham said he was a xenophobic, racist,
he's a danger to the country,
going to destroy the party, and now he's just his he's his
lapdog.
Lapdog.
He's like a butler to Trump. Basically.
Butler. That's what I was going to say.
Like this is it's a little bit of a sidebar, but it's just hysterical to see this where Burgum is not even being like, no, I didn't mean it. He's like, I said that one thing, and it's the only thing that people are talking about that I said it, but nobody wants to ask me about Joe Biden. It's like. Yeah, because dog, no one's gonna ask you about Joe Biden because you in no way have any sort of proximity to Joe Biden.
Yeah. You would not be in a position to endorse Joe Biden or do business with him because Biden, for all his faults, and he has very many, including supporting the genocide of people in Palestinians in Gaza right now, he's a career politician. Like, public servant is probably going too far because public servants are like teachers and firefighters. But he's somebody who served basically his entire life in government. And so he's not doing business. It's also what makes the impeachment claims about the $1,400 payments from his son to him for a car repayment that's actually coming from the Chinese Communist Party or whatever so laughable on its face, because even in comparison to other Democrats like Hillary Clinton, who loved dealing on her name and the Clintons made a ton of money outside of office where you could make some of these claims. Biden just wasn't like that. He's the guy riding on the train to Delaware. And so he wasn't a businessman. Trump's whole thing is, or was in 2016, now it's just, please keep me out of jail, was I'm a businessman and I'll run the country like my business is. And so when Burgum says I won't do business with the guy because he's a bad businessman, he went bankrupt multiple times, he cheats people out of money.
He works with.
Yeah, that is relevant. And now it's just, why don't you ask me about whether I do business with train boy Joe Biden?
It's just so, I just love that. I love that. I love that deflection. Even McCallum had to laugh, being like, all right, whatever. It's not even worth me pushing you on this, Burgum. Like,
it's not worth me pushing you on this because also you're Doug Burgum.
Right, that's what it means. It's like there's actually no stakes in you just fucking completely blowing this off.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Exactly. I don't even know if his endorsement moved one voter.
I'm wondering
in a country of hundreds of millions of people, Doug Burgum's endorsement probably moves 0 voters.
I'm wondering if Trump even knows that he did it.
I don't think he knows his name. He barely knows Vivek's name. You know, he probably is like...
He's like, Ramaswamy, he's good.
Oh, yeah. It's
Vivek,
right.
Vivek.
Right. Hey, Bobby Jindal. Oh, I mean...
Rokana?
Yeah.
You switch parties?
All right, folks. Gonna read some IMs and then we will get out of here, actually. Dave from Jamaica, woke Pope versus Jesus Trump. Buckets and buckets. Emma, do you consider yourself a liberal or something else? I consider myself a social democrat / democratic socialist. But I don't really like labels because I think it's just distracting. I stand for left policies and the ways that we can achieve them in the most practical manner, and also not ceding any points to the right and being principled. Dan from Columbus, I think Matt has the best Trump impersonation in the office, but I think Emma's getting pretty good. Really? I was going off the rails there. Bradley should go on the Seth Meyers route and do it so poorly that it wraps around to being funny. NYC driver, the conservative wing of the church has tried to undermine the Pope since he spoke out for immigrants and refugees at the beginning of his papacy. Desert Lefty, hey Amar, can I get a shofar for my friend Poppy? She celebrated her 4-year anniversary being on HRT Wednesday, but she's been going through a rough patch and I want to send her some support. We are so shorthanded today, it's just myself and Bradley, so here's an Emma shofar. I need my own soundboard, I know, but shofar for Poppy. Thinking of ya. Sam from Ottawa, did you watch Hassan's interview with the Houthi militant? An hour of the most popular leftist streamer just giving propaganda for a terrorist organization. I thought the kid said he wasn't Houthi. I did watch some of it. I thought it was cool. I think we should be humanizing more people in the Middle East. And the fact that Hassan was able to do that is cool. He asked him questions, and I think the kid said that, you know, he supports anti-Zionist Jewish people and things like that. There's really... I don't understand that reaction, to be honest with you. The idea that we shouldn't be humanizing people in Yemen who are showing solidarity with Palestinians, and it doesn't seem like this kid is a Houthi militant from what he said, so who cares, dude? Seriously. Lila, on October 17th, our city council meeting was trolled by 2 callers with anti-Semitic rhetoric over Zoom. For context, many cities have been trolled in this manner. Because of this, our city stopped allowing public comment over Zoom. Our Jewish community and allies have come out condemning the hate speech and demanding action be taken. On January 17th, and after many hours of public comment, our city's council voted in IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. During comment, the Jerusalem definition was brought up and urged passage. Would you comment on the IHRA definition and the Jerusalem definition and the blind spots when it comes to criticism of Israel and Zionism? Yes, that definition of anti-Semitism has come under fire, specifically in the UK. The IHRA definition of anti-Semitism that has been used, and particularly was used by the Labour Party to oust Jeremy Corbyn during that time. It has the Jerusalem definition I need to read more up on, so I don't have the ability to kind of comment about that on the fly. But my understanding of the IHRA definition is that it is oriented towards Zionism and towards categorizes criticism of the Israeli government as anti-Semitism under that definition. And that is the problematic nature of it. The Jerusalem definition, I don't have familiarity with off the top of my head. I apologize. Nostradamus. There is a show called on PBS called American Experience. There's an episode on L. Frank Baum. He was huge in women's rights because his mother-in-law was into that. He was a great American, and what he meant by the Wizard of Oz was laid out by him. The show I'm talking about is on YouTube. Good to know. Sergeant Flux. By all means, ignore that. Oh, wait, no, I already read that. Angela the Good Witch says the Good Witch was obviously the head of the Oompa Loompa Union. All right, 5 more, and then we are going to get out of here. Jerry's K-hole says, Emma, Waymo, Lyft, Uber, you don't need a car in San Francisco, and just take reasonable precautions. The car will be fine. Also, car breakings are down 50% since August. Please stop repeating the MM narrative about our city. I'm not repeating it. I'm reading IMs. I rented a car last time I was in San Francisco, and I heard the same thing, and I was fine. The reason I have the car is because I'm also going to take a day or two to visit my cousin who doesn't live in San Francisco proper. So I will only be in the city for 1 day. So, but I hear what you're saying. I know there's lots of worries about me. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And I mean, if the car gets broken into, I'll have egg on my face and that'll be stupid. But I don't really think like that. Lydia Rose, hope I'm not too late to pile on some Emma love. Once I called in and thanked you for your consistency, and I mean it. I've been a huge fan of you since TYT, and it's nice to see you with the same anger I feel. Thank you very much. Emma, you're the best. Chris Burdick says, your unflinching coverage of Israel's genocide of Palestinians is valued, necessary, and refreshing. You and the whole MR crew are some of the most honest, rational, and compassionate voices addressing this atrocity. Y'all help me get through the day in a society that has gone off its effing rocker, so take some comfort in knowing that history and truth is on your side, as are all of those who are out here listening. Thank you so much. Choke Brothers, Emma, I hope you never feel ashamed for letting you get emotional when you get validation from your colleagues. It's nice to see it because it shows you actually care about the things you talk about in a genuine way, and you don't say what you say for clicks. The show has steadily improved since you've joined, and I'm sure all the listeners would agree with that. Keep up the good work as long as you can. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I've improved on the show since I've joined. Michael was such a unique voice in the show. With him on, it was, different, right? But amazing in its own way. So I don't want to say I've improved on the show, but I think I hopefully have brought my own voice to the show. The whole emotional woman element of it. That's what I provide primarily. I'm joking. So I really appreciate the kind comments. It is really nice to see, because I'm sure everyone's dealt with this in their personal life, but I think it's a little different when you put yourself out there on camera and all of your comments are available for people, and you phrase it in a way on the show that maybe it'd be a little more delicate in a private conversation, but they all hold that against you. Yeah, I lost some friends for sure for this. So I really do believe in it, and that is that. And the final I am of the day.
Of the week.
Of the week! I'm gonna find a good one. Omega. Come this primary season, I think some establishment Dems will get super Islamophobic, and after the general election, we will see more of it. And when some lose their seats, this last midterm did see some Dems do everything other than endorse Republicans publicly against any far-left candidates. We shall see. I'm praying that some Democrats begin to rethink their perspective as Netanyahu is literally saying that he won't ever allow for a Palestinian state, just giving Biden the middle finger. If the genocide's not enough to move them, perhaps that will be it. In the way that, like, a lot of Democrats stood with Obama when Boehner invited Netanyahu behind his back to speak to Congress. All right, guys. Hope Sam's doing better. You know, I was vomiting for like 12 hours span, 12, 18 hours on and off. So maybe he's through it by the point that he texted us. Lots of stuff going around. Get your booster. Mask up if you can. Stay safe. Appreciate you, Bradley. Welcome back. So good to have you back. Matt, well-deserved day off. Dorsey, killing it with our YouTube channel. Appreciate you all. See you on Monday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. While I shifted in and out of gear, waiting for my moment to happen. I don't know how much longer I can stay in, or how much more I got to pay to play in. I know somehow the lines got gray.